Execration versus Vice getting eliminated today. It is the lower bracket start, instant elimination for both of these series, so it means a lot. We are back to best of threes. We'll see who does come out on top. Historically, Execration has been on top of Vice. In the group stage, they did go 1-1, however, so it's fairly close considering that recent match. Of course, you have to factor in the fact that Execration had to play earlier.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, Mike.
We're in a Rambulan. Well, I haven't played the video, John. Should I play the video just for the?
Yeah, you know what? Do it. Yes,
All right.
absolutely.
All right, we'll play it. We'll get things started properly with a Rambulan. Online Rambulan. Yes, indeed, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We are officially into the Rambulan between Execration and Vice Esports. Hopefully that's the last time I'll ever have to play that video, John. It is MLP Dota John Xfire, of course. John, the draft has begun. Of course, it's lower bracket. Loser of this does have to go home. Winner does make it through the lower bracket round of 2. And Execration, they've started their draft with a Viper. Vice Esports will go for the Undying Rubik opening.
Yeah, it's not the most common start. We haven't seen too much Viper and C. It's been constantly banned out, but you do see it in other regions. Like you mentioned, it comes out a lot in Europe. We saw it in the past tournaments every now and again. We'll see what Execration opts for here, whether they want to run it mid or off. You can run it in those lanes, even a safe lane Viper, although that is way less popular. Could be possible there for Exe. We'll have to see. They do go with a Pangolier next. Vice do have a more standard start, Undying Rubik. Pretty decent spell steal from the Viper for the Rubik, so he gets the ability to break as well. You don't have the best of lockdown. You're currently only relying on lift from the Rubik for Vice, so they're gonna have to find ways to play around that. Execration, this Pangolier pickup has not much to worry about. You don't have a Bane, you don't have a Grimstroke to stop you from rolling around, so it should be a steady game here for the Pango to just take control in these team fights, unless a Bloodseeker comes out, could still be banned by Execration. Overall, fairly interesting draft openings for both sides. Again, you have to factor it in that Execration did just forfeit a best of 3 in the middle of it. I believe they went to game 3 of that. They went 1-1. They had to forfeit to go into this match. So there's a little bit more wear and tear in Execration today than there is for Vice.
Ironically enough, John, today my camera's playing up, but there we go. I've fixed it now. I can't believe this has been one of the worst days ever, John. You know what happened? 10 minutes before we were meant to go live for the stream, I was just filling up my my vape, as I do with my bottle of vape liquid, and you know what happened, John? It exploded. It literally exploded all over my keyboard, all over my mouse, everything, all over the desk. Yeah. That and the game before that, of course, I was in the SEA server having a bit of fun. You brought up the Bloodseeker, so I'll bring up the story. I had this off-lane Bloodseeker. Yeah. I was playing Mirana. Just one of those guys where if he plays bad, you miss one arrow and he just loses his mind. It's done. Yeah. It was one of those games, John. One of those damn games. I can't stand people like that. Like, if you make a mistake, you don't have to, try to pin the blame on somebody else. Just, move on. It's okay. You can still win the game. It's okay. Calm down. We lost the game, of course, because, he started running it down mid. But, what can you do? What do you do? It's one of those days, John.
Yeah, it is. Fortunately, Mike, this is probably the last day before the patch hits. So this is more like figuring out who's going to stay on to get totally screwed over by the patch tomorrow. It should come out like in Southeast Asia time, like 2 a.m. I think is usually the patch time. If not 2 a.m., then like 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. around that time. So we should see the patch relatively soon. This is going to be the last few sets of games. And we'll just have to see how it unfolds. Of course, fortunately, both teams not going to have the spin around. Really steady bans in that second phase as well. Do you see the Void Spirit come out for Execration? So still leaving it up in the air what they want to do with Viper. Void Spirit could go mid. Void Spirit could go off. We have seen either of these in the 4 role as well, although with a Pangolier, having either Viper or Void Spirit as a support can get a bit dicey. Like, this is already a really greedy set of 3 heroes, so most definitely we're looking at least 2 cores here, more than likely. Maybe just 1 flex pick. We'll have to see how Execration build up. This is a run and gun sort of hero lineup, though. Viper, Pango, Void Spirit do just basically need levels to start getting control at the 10 to 15 minute mark. So Execration is going to look to play fast in this one, just with those first 3 heroes. Vice should kind of brace themselves and get ready for it. The Undying's already really good at that, but you might want to see cores that can respond quickly and not have to sit back and farm for too long.
Yeah. Definitely very aggressive from Execration, that's for sure so far. But Vice Esports, obviously a team not to be underestimated. We'll see what they do go ahead and draft up now as we do go into the third pickup, and they are yet to pick up that third pick. I do wonder what they're looking at here. Of course, I am glad to see that BDZ does get that Rubik that he does perform so well on. It's always a treat to see him play that Rubik, and sometimes I get very confused as to why we don't see the Rubik banned more often up against BDZ. See, it seems to be a very comfortable pick for him. And Vice, well, they see all this magic damage, they'll go for the Jug, so you've got that inbuilt spin now to avoid a lot of these disables that are coming out from Execration. Execration don't seem to care very much, they'll go straight into the Elder Titan.
It's really fast last phase of these picks. Magnus Jug comes out, so you've got the Wombo combo here for Vice. Steady way to get some farm up in your Jug, and alleviates pressure from the Jug to farm the Battle Fury. So you could still opt for, say, a fast SNY. You could still go for Drums. You've got the Empower to kind of shove you through that early farming phase if you need it. And Magnus as a core, more than likely mid, but could still be off for Vice, is fairly solid. You don't have too much to worry about here. If you are laning against a Viper, that's not ideal, but still sort of manageable for farm. Execration ET pickup does mean that they are looking to, again, pump up that damage early, looking to fight fast. They've got some solid combos. Mainly single target control, though. So we're looking at Remnants from our Void Spirit into the Stomp from ET. Outside of that, Rolling Thunder stun is there, but it's not very reliable. So no reliable hold down here for Execration, which means that Juggernaut with its inbuilt spell immunity is going to have a good time here. So there's a lot Vice can do with a Jug. They can sort of play fast with a Jug. We're going to have to see what the last pick is. But it is overall rather slower for Vice, right? Magnus, we tend to wait for Arc Boots Mech if you're off lane, or if you're mid, Blink Dagger, Echo Saber. Jug as well, it's going to need at least the Drums to start playing, maybe even Drums Manta or SNY coming out first. We'll have to see. But overall, very different mindsets with these two drafts, so it's going to be an exciting one to see clash.
That it will be, John. That it will be. Final pickups, though. Vice Esports. What are we looking for? It does appear they are lacking that mid, or perhaps an offlane hero here for Vice. Depends where they are going to throw the mag. They've got 30 seconds to think about it. Of course, I believe Vice were just in a series in a different tournament, right? And they had to withdraw from it because...
No, it's Execration. That's Execration.
Oh, I apologize. Execration, right. They had to pull out of a different tournament. So that either means they're going to feel very warmed up, they're going to feel kind of good going into this, or it could mean they're a bit tired. We'll see if it does affect their play today, as they do finish with a Medusa. So a very kind of strong 4 Protect 1 style lineup here from Execration.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It doesn't solve their issues with control, but they do not really have anything to worry about. I suppose Palos in this case could go for a Diffusal build in the Jug if he's really worried about it. Rather interesting back and forth. Vice do close out their draft as well with the Bloodseeker. So we're looking at Skewer Rupture being a combo that's available. Blood right after RP is really nice as well. It's an interesting clash. I think Execration has more pressure here to play fast. You've got this Viper going on the offlane for Rupido. You've got Ken the Void Spirit. You've got BDZ's Pango in play, along with the ET coming out here for Execration. So there's a lot they can do early on to get this running. Vice, though, Samael and the Rubik, it's really flashy. We've seen him shine on his Lina. His Rubik is just as good. So we'll just have to see how Vice responds to that aggression and whether or not they let Yoed just farm up here. It's a failsafe of Execration, right? In case the 4 heroes kind of bomb out in that first 20 to 25 minutes, as long as Yoed is getting free farm, Medusa's still going to be a menace. So It's an interesting way of balancing that out, but again, lack of control there for Execration. Vice, straightforward, but they have to hold against the tide of how fast Execration wants to play.
Absolutely. We'll go into it though. Game number 1 of these lower bracket playoffs, round of 1 of course, between Execration and Vice Esports. See which one does get to go through to the next round. I'm not really sure who the betting favorites are right now, as we don't really have a betting sponsor for this BTS Pro Series 4, but nevertheless, it really could go either way just based off how they've been doing these two teams. Obviously not great because they're in the lower bracket, but you do see moments of brilliance from both these guys. It's not like they were getting stomped throughout the group stages. They were performing quite decently. In fact, they were taking games off some pretty big names in those group stages, but not quite enough to make it through to the upper bracket. But they're still in the tournament, which is all that matters.
Yeah, they've still got that opportunity to climb. Just need to find it. And you mentioned it, but Execration, just off of sort of midway through a best of 3, having to drop earlier on. You can see both teams are in good spirits as well. Execration giving shout outs and Vice giving it back. Very polite, very friendly. Not as not as much smack talk being thrown out here for this Rambulan, unfortunately, Mike. Very polite.
Oh, John, I said that BDZ was going to be playing Rubik. He's on the other team, John. You let me just go.
Yeah.
You let me just go with that.
I kind of zoned out until the picks came out as well.
Now I look like an idiot. Now the viewers are going to be like, who's this idiot caster? Doesn't even know the players. I was focusing.
Hey, Samuel's Rubik's just a 6, so we just mix the names up. Samuel does the same thing on the Rubik. Him and BDZ have been beasts at the pause 4 in the offlane, so it's been really darn good anyway.
That's fair enough. My excuse is that everything that I'm touching right now is sticky because of vape liquid, so you'll have to... I'm not in my right mind right now. Top lane, they are going to bring 3 heroes up just to make sure they can ensure they get that bounty, and it looks like Enryu was left down bot by himself to get the bounties. They didn't actually contest whatsoever on Execration down at that bot lane, so it is going to be a 3-for-1 start, and that is quite a great start for the side of Vice Esports.
That's going to give them a huge amount of gold to start with. Makes matters a bit complicated here for the side of Execration when it comes down to trading resources early on. You can see in that off lane already, Enryu is going to be up there, up against Yoe. Medusa level 1 is not great. Does have the Mystic Snake to play with, but you don't have the durability for Mana Shield. And Aura's going to have his work cut out for him in terms of zoning out a Bloodseeker. Just even with the Blood Right, it makes it hard to trade and stand in that circle once you've got levels and Turist.
Mid lane, Ken forced to eat a Fairy Fire very early on, John. It looks like he was skewered behind the tier 1 tower. He does make it out eventually, but a very, very bad start here for the mid lane of Execration. He already goes through 1 Tango, another great skewer back. Bob is going to find first blood.
Oh, Bobby!
Perfect plays out from the mag, and Bob is not going to be, or rather Ken's not going to be feeling very good about that.
No, Bob, wrecking mode on today. Not building anything, just bring them down once more. Ken, I mean, this is a matchup that doesn't necessarily favor Ken too hard. Like, yeah, he's got Resonant Pulse. He is melee. This is something we've seen Magnus's bully out before. Shockwave plus Skewer is darn strong. And Empower allows you to just harass him without worrying about that Resonant Pulse anyway. So Ken's got to watch his spacing. He is a level behind as well. A level and a half behind, which means Bob is going to hit some big power spikes soon. You're going to have to watch his spacing there and maybe hope his supports come out. You are talking about a Pangolier plus an Elder Titan, so it's not the smoothest times for Leaf in terms of those supports. So Ken's going to have to probably just play it safe and concede that Bob is going to get a little bit more here.
Yes, he will. Of course, the top lane, the one we really haven't talked about too much, Zenki is going to be there along with Palos up against Rupiro and BDZ. BDZ, I do remember BDZ playing a pretty mean Pangolier as well. It's very nice to see him on that hero this game around. Though I would have loved to see him on the Rubik, but you know, we don't always get what we want. Looks like they have been having a decent enough time up at that top lane. Palos not really struggling too much in terms of CS right now. he is going to be at the top of the board. But eventually, once you get through all the regen you have, it is definitely going to look much, much more difficult when you're up against that Viper.
And the only issue here is that Palos does have the Blade Fury, so he can take off those stacks if it does build up. He's got the Healing Ward to hold the lane. So all in all, like, this is a melee lane against a Viper, but Rupido can't do as much as he'd want. You also can't expect too much from BDZ. Level 1 Pango just doesn't quite cut it out. So he does need his level 2. Does grab it now, but you have to watch Zenki. Like, it's the Soul Rip place that can come out. The Tombstone's ready as well for Zenki in case they do want to dive instead. And that does mean that Paulus just gets a little bit more space. So he's doing fine up top despite being a Viper lane. Rupido's not really slowing down. Level 3, level 4 spike is going to be where the Viper wants to really start playing aggressive. Maybe level 5 even. You do want to shut Palos ASAP. That is the point of this Viper off.
Do you agree with that? In fact, hold that thought, because no, never mind. I thought they were going mid lane. Do you agree with the skill build here from Zenki? Like, he goes for that early point in Tombstone over Soul Rip.
It's an interesting one. Not the most common. He hasn't really had the need to heal up, although can again.
He's going to dissimulate this time around. Of course, even bot lane, Samael was getting very low on the Rubik. Was being chased down by our Elder Titan, being played by RR. That's going to leave Enryu down bot by himself on the Bloodseeker, which is not going to be very fun for him. Of course, they were almost at the stage where they had killed Yoe off, but Yoe had also escaped to freedom, and he's also been just fine. Still, I dare say Vice is having the better game right now. When you just look purely on the, in terms of CS, Enryu's having a great old time down bot. Of course, Bob is not struggling whatsoever in the mid lane right now on the mag. And even top lane, while the junk isn't all the way at the top, he is not too far behind.
Yeah, it's overall smooth sailing for Vice. They do have lanes that are rather independent. We need to see Execration really maximize these early game heroes. Like, the support duo of Pangolier plus Elder Titan is kind of hard to hammer down, but they can trade well. You just need to find that space out, and Enryu might get caught, but no, dodges out.
He's going to be just fine. RR has been doing some pretty solid work trying to zone them out, but it doesn't seem to be quite enough yet. Meanwhile, top lane, Palos getting very, very low on the jug, is going to be able to survive. It looks like BDZ was the one chasing him down on the Pango. He does have that healing ward though, so he always has that kind of free regen every minute or so to just abuse whenever he needs. But this lane has definitely got substantially harder. As they go in again, Palos going to go for a spin. Rupido trying to back off. It's going to be fine, does avoid the spin, but Zenki is there to body block him up. Though he won't actually go for the block, but rather try to go for the kill, and he does get it. Decay and the Soul Rip was going to be enough. Unfortunately for our Viper, he did just hit level 3 as well, so he had just enough damage to take him out.
Yeah, it's a very slow start for Execration, which is, again, not what you expect from these kinds of heroes. They might just need to wait out for these early level spikes, which is where they will shine. You can see Ken is forced to rotate. Like, his mid lane's been rough. He wants to find some kills. Might find it.
And Palos is going to be able to spin just in the nick of time. While bot lane looks like Enryu was falling pretty low again, but he's going to get to his tier 1 tower and be just safe. RR, however, the Blood Right definitely going to connect, and now Enryu going to get the kill and just trying to back off. In fact, he'll go back in onto Yoe, who does clean up the Rubik, onto the Bloodseeker. The Stone Gaze is going to be popped, but it's not that effective if they're not looking at you. And Yoe, yeah, he gives the my bad. May have just been a misclick there. I think he would have been better off just holding onto the mana and going for the Mystic Snake instead.
Yeah, just a small misplay. You're still not going to be too upset. You did lose your support, but you found a counter kill on the Medusa. This is the one lane for Execration that's going pretty darn well, 31-6. Just trailing behind Enryu just a tad. Definitely not matching up for a jug, but that is because Palos is clearing some massive stacks.
Palos, speaking of the man, might be in trouble, and yeah, Ken, he is able to kill him off with the Astral Step Out. While he was enjoying himself with those stacks, he does lose his life, as now the Tombstone's been dropped by Zenki. That's just free gold for Ken. They may get BDZ. Does Swashbuckle, Aether Remnant to lock them down, but the decay does prove to be enough from Zenki. I don't really know if I'd call that worth, though. I feel like that Tombstone being fed to Ken is going to make him feel pretty good on the Void Spirit.
Yeah, you'd say the Void Spirit's pretty darn happy. Doesn't mind too much trading his support for that, as it is additional gold. I think the Undying getting some early gold injection isn't the worst thing in the world, though, and you know, you do just want to use those early tombstones anyway to secure something, so you're not going to be too upset as well. I'd say right now, though, Vice got a bit too complacent in their top jungle. They need a few wards there to watch the entrance just to keep that farming spot safe. And Palos, he was on top and does drag down a little bit because of that death, so he's going to need to get some safe farm back up. You do have level 6 on Rupido, so the top lane for a Jug, if he just gets left alone there, isn't really fun anymore. Like, he has spin to pop, but there are only so many times you can pop that in lane.
Absolutely. Bot lane. Bit of a group up here onto Enryu, but no, it's just going to be RR. Thought he might have gone for the stop, but it was on cooldown. Enryu is still perfectly safe and fine on this Bloodseeker, still being a menace. Even thought about the Rupture there onto RR, but doesn't quite throw it out. Does get the creep as well. RR trying to steal it away, but he doesn't quite get it with the Astral Spirit. Overall, a 1k net worth lead here for Vice, because they are going to be able to move quite fast once we do hit the mid game, as Bob does go for a nice RP up at that top lane onto Rupido, and the spin's going to come in. He is going to go down. Bob the one to take the kill on the mag. It's his second kill of the game, and I always appreciate the early RPs like that. I do feel like there's no need to wait for a big RP this early on. Just go for the solo RPs if you can and get a core kill for yourself.
Yep, it's a really nice pickup for Bob. Does get a little bit of gold injection for himself. He's just about one part away from his Equi Saber as well.
Well, Ken, he ends up getting a solo pick off onto Samael in the mid lane. So he does kind of get a nice little bit of a trade there going for himself. Meanwhile, Palos, Omni/top lane, is going to bounce over to the Viper, and he crits on the last hit as well. Now with the spin out, he's going to get BDZ, and he will spin away all the way back to the fountain. A beautiful play out from Palos. And I was honestly expecting that to not work out, but he does make it work.
He's just slapping right now, Palos. In fact, Vice, for the most part, are really starting to take that lead up. 3-7, 3k lead. This lead is going to widen as well because it's a Magnus draft with a Jug. So these two cores can farm so efficiently in that jungle. You are giving Yoe a little bit of space here to play catch-up, but that is just one hero. Everyone else is taking the short end of the stick for the Medusa. The investment has to pay off.
Zenki now going to be chased down by Ken. Zenki should just be dead and will be. Ken finding his third kill of the game now on the Void Spirit, feeling very good. And overall, 4-7. The concerning point right now for Execration is still probably going to be that Yoe Medusa though, right? Like he's not quite farming as well as you'd hope, and well, they are 3k behind. Looks like he's going to make the group up with his team up at that top lane and try to force in that tier 1 tower. I suppose we'll see if Vice Esports want to try and defend.
Yeah, it's they do drag some bodies up. They have to be aware that there is Rolling Thunder ready in BDZ as well.
There is, speaking of, he's going to go for it right now onto Samael, and they will get one. Into Enryu, BDZ, perfect pathing there, going to get a double stun off into a Swashbuckle, and that'll mean that this Bloodseeker is also going to die. Ken, the one to pick up the kill there, and they are right back into that mid lane now where the tier 1 tower was pushed in. Vice Esports. They feed a couple kills away up at that top lane, but they get a very valuable tower in return.
Yeah, it's a bigger win there for Vice. They managed to steal some stacks away as well. So that's a really big win. Palos, he does have his Mask of Madness up with the Empower. Just so much farm that can come out for a Jug in comparison to Medusa right now. And Execration. Ken's had a couple of kills. He does need to rush into that Yules for that item spike on our Void Spirit. I really want to see what the game plan is with Rupido right now. Like, they sat behind a bit too long.
BDZ's in a spot of trouble here, but he is going to run away with an Urn charge, but the swashbuckle out from Samael is going to be very nice, out with the Fade Bolt to finish off the kill. BDZ not going to be very happy about that one. Of course, it's all in the name of buying more space for Yoe. He's going for the SNY build-up on the Medusa this game, so looks like he isn't quite confident in being able to drag this out later, perhaps feeling like he needs to fight a bit earlier on. Just not sure about this.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't gone for anything to accelerate his farm, so he's always going to be playing from behind without the Mask of Madness here. The Jug and Magnus can just clear their own jungle camps so much better. They're also just really sacking both Ken and Rupido. Granted, you don't need too much farm on that Viper. He does have his Rod of Athos up, but if you're going for the Aura build, it's going to be a bit late. It looks like Vice does want to abuse that Viper right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say so. Top lane, he's going to get lifted up though. Samael going to be there, and they have the RP if they need, but they won't. They will just walk away. Samael will go down to the Medusa. Or rather, it was the kill went to the Viper. That Nether Toxin actually gave the kill away back to Rupiro, so that's a bit of a crappy feeling for Yoa, I'm sure. So he showed up, but he did not really get the kill. And even then, it's not really worth the trade, a core for a support.
No, it's not a win at all. Would have been okay if it went to Yoe, but it doesn't compensate for it. He got 75 gold in the exchange, doesn't do much. You're going to hit some major spikes here in Vice. Blink for Bob is just about done. He has been completely uncontested. 3-0 so far. Palace as well has been just allowed to dominate the spot lane and farm. So Execration, they're sort of sticking together as a team, but they're not finding openings. They're allowing the free farm of Vice to continue. They do have this Yules up on Ken, so our Void Spirit can now start to get his combination off steadily. They need to play with his power spike. Perhaps a smoke is going to have to come out soon just to find a couple of key pickoffs. Have to be wary going into that blink though. Bob is going to be able to set up for some big RPs now.
That they are. Still a big smoke up. BDC. Pump faking the Rolling Thunder. They're going to run into Samael, and looks like the Rubik will die. Nice quick pick up there from Execration. I'm sure they did want a bit more than that though, like minimum getting a core kill would have been nice here for Execration, but they do have to settle for what they get.
Yeah, it's a tricky spot. Like you're going to be happy with just finding something. Still, you know, the kill board starts to look a bit more even, 8 to 9. The farm is just pulling away. 6k up for Vice. They just cleared out a massive ancient stack once again in their triangle. And it just doesn't compare to what Yoa is getting right now. Like, Yoa's got the SNY going into the Scotty. That's another big item he has to save up for. The early start we expected Execration to try and get with their lineup is just not coming out. They're playing so passively. I think that's going to be a bit of a mistake. Vice is pretty much ready to go with the Blink RP if they wanted to. They are sticking Paulus and Bob together.
Bot lane, look at the pushing happening here. I mean, you kind of just talked about it, but they feel so confident. At 16 minutes in, they're just pushing down a bottom tier 2 tower. Into the mid lane they go. They spotted out Ken, who's been ruptured up. He'll dissimulate up to the high ground, but they know he's there somewhere. So Palos will come in, has the Omni if he wants to throw it out. He won't quite yet. He's holding on to it as Bomb does go for the Yules up. In fact, it was Ken rather. BDZ trying to roll through, but Ken has died. Palos, he does pick him up on the Jug. Now the Rolling Thunder going back through onto the Jug, but he will just spin away. Still trying to find out BDZ. BDZ starting to get very low on Palos once again, getting another kill onto Rupiro. He finds another. Now Yoe has been left behind. He's out of mana and looks like he is just set to fall. Samael taking the kill on the Rubik. A full team wipe out for Vice Esports.
Oh, that was ruinous for Execration. The big issue with their draft that we're seeing right now is that they've got 2 ranged heroes. They're always zoned out. This means that our Jug, with his healing ward, can just stand there and fight. Like Palace controls that ward really well. The spacing is just on point.
Stomp out, Earthsplitter there as well. Should at least connect on 1, maybe even 2, and yeah, they get Bob. Zenki even getting caught out by Ken with the Yule Scepter. They'll get 2 for their trouble. Vice Esports maybe getting a little bit overly greedy there for that mid-tier 2. But in the meantime, Palos, he did get the bottom tier 2 anyway. It's an 8k net worth lead for Vice Esports. And with this kind of draft up against the Medusa, you could just keep running at them now. That Ken finds Enryu as well. I kind of missed that one. It's like BDZ got ruptured up. But what I was saying is, with this kind of draft from Vice, you could just keep running at them just as Palos is right now to RR, but he might need a bit more help than that.
Yeah, it's really confident of Palos. He has no backup at all. His supports do have TPs if they wanted to go into the outpost, but this is a tricky spot. No Omni Slash as well. So he's not that strong. Gotta be a bit cautious. And Execration, they find a couple of big pickups earlier on. They still need a little bit more in the tank. Look at that gap between Yoa and Bob, Mike. It's still 1.5k between the Medusa and the Magnus, and it's even bigger with the Jug. So there's still a lot of farm to be had here. Execration are now gonna have to play into that backup. Right? Their draft have 4 early heroes and the Medusa. It's time for the Medusa to start building up as their pocket strat now.
Smoked up through the mid lane. Vice. They've got the Omni and they've got the Arcane Rune active on Palos, so if you can get it on cooldown, be a nice short cooldown this time around. Meanwhile, Bob, Shockwave, not going to connect. Palos running through, trying to find a target. Won't be able to get one in time. They've lost the Arcane Rune, but that's not too big of a deal. Back into the mid-tier 2 tower they go. And Execration, they've got to try and respond here. They will try with the Aether Remnant and now the Dissimulate. But Bob has been, well, getting the RPs off very nicely this game. And Ken, he's not going to be very happy about that.
No, it's a big blunder. Really big kill for Vice to get. Second most important hero for Execration. And we talked about Ken having a big spike with the Yules. We haven't really seen it come out. It might have nailed them a couple of kills, but when it did matter, it hasn't been really helping out. And Vice get to smoke up once more. They know they're ahead even without RP. They can still keep going for these kills.
Oh, RR gonna get spotted. This is not the target they want. They want the Medusa, and Yoe gets rooted up. There's your Omni bouncing to Rupido, so they only get the Viper so far. Now the Stone Gaze in the stomp, setting up for Yoe, but he's out of mana. He's in big, big trouble. The Stone Gaze stolen by Samael. He'll turn it back around onto the Medusa. Blood right out, and Ryu still chasing. They got a bit of mana back on this Medusa, but it's just not gonna be enough. She is surrounded, and she is just set to fall. Can they hold her down, though? Yoe? He's not really just going to run out, is he? Surely not. The spin will be up from Palos. Samael does tie to Ken. Bob will go get BDZ, and now Palos does get the kill. But can he get out? Yes, he can. Yeah, he definitely can get out. Enryu now trying to run away. They will not be able to lock down the Bloodseeker. And this is just it's a real unfortunate set of events right now for Execration. A complete stomping, really, from Vice Esports at the moment.
Yeah, they're just working this map perfectly. It's really unfortunate. Rupido, he had Aetos. I think it must have been 1 second off on cooldown. And just not finding that kill. It would have been massive if they found a punishment onto Palos. But the issues with the draft keep coming in. It's the fact that this is a Magnus Jug draft. And that Execration has not warded the jungle at all, or if they did, then it hasn't been really effective after that one rotation in. They've been happy enough to sit back. They needed to play aggressive with the Elder Titan, with the Pangolier, with the Viper, and the Void Spirit, and it feels like they're losing that window.
PDC. Oh, they got a bit cocky there, Bob. Force the BKB now. Skewer TP away. Oh, Bob, he could have gotten the kill, but he just kept pump faking. Enryu going to try and run now, but he's been stomped up. Ken going to catch him with the Aether Remnant, and that should be Enryu going down as well. He'll throw out the Rupture, but he is definitely gone. Now Palos, do you really want to run in like this? He does not have Omni up yet. It's 15 seconds away, but he's trying to get something started. It is going to be a 4v5 situation, however. Root is going to be there. Omni 5 seconds away now.
Oh.
Palos just running back. He just doesn't care. He runs back in. Looks at the Viper. Does get lifted up. Rupido trying to survive, but he cannot. He will end up going down. Looks like the Doosa, Yoe, he will just TP out. And Palos is having a look for another. And RR gonna have his TP cancelled as Bob. It's Bob the bulldozer today, John.
Oh, yeah.
Mid lane, Samael does end up going down to the Rubik to Ken, but these trades just aren't worth it at all for Execration.
No, they really aren't. It's not getting them nearly enough. you have this insane gap still with Yoa and everyone else. You've just really stacked Rupido as well. Progression has stopped since the Atos. So the utility of your Viper just relies on being an aura carrier now, and it's not being built up fast enough. Vice, complete control on the map. 1 tier 2 left for Execration, and that just leaves the Roche. Gonna be a safe objective for Vice. RP is gonna be up in half a minute. Omni Slash is still available. They do get the scan out, but they're gonna have to make it quick if they want to fight this one. Doesn't look like they can.
There's no way they can fight this. Not into the brand new MKB of Palos. I think they've got to hide right now because Vice, they're not going to slow down anytime soon. They're just going to keep going. And I think that is the correct way to play this draft, is just keep going after Execration. Don't give them any breathing room. That Dusa, of course, will scale quite nicely once we get to the super late game. If we get to that point, though. Does find a nice Grove Bow, which does help Yoair a bit, but need a bit more than that, I'm sure. Up tier 2 will drop. Palos rushing for the tier 3 tower. Not interested in waiting whatsoever. Motivate.Trust going to come through. Palos still very happy here. He's got the healing ward up.
Oh man, this is sickening. You got Blood Rage plus Empower. Oh,
great skewer out from Bob. Samael will take the kill for himself. They're throwing everything at Palos. He just doesn't care though. He'll spin attack it now. Backdoor protection, no problem. Although maybe Palos may have gone too far. He's been silenced up. He's waiting. He will lose the Aegis, but now Bob comes in. He's got the Medusa with the RP. Do they have enough damage output? She does have the Stone Gaze, and she will commit immediately. Meanwhile, Palos trying to go after Ken. BDZ rolling around. They have not got the jug quite yet. He's going to spin his way out and now turn back around with the Rupture out. Onto Ken. The Medusa, Yoair trying to go through the tree line, trying to escape, but Bob is right on it. The Bulldozer once again getting the Medusa, turning it back around. It's still not done yet though. Palos getting very, very low, but no, the Omni comes through. He just shreds all of them. An ultra killer for Palos. It might just be a rampage. It will be a rampage out from Palos.
Oh yeah, Vice. They've got them in a Vice grip, Mike. They've just absolutely hammered in Execration. Clean up on those racks up top. Gonna go for the mid. Execration, not calling it yet, but their options are limited. All of their racks, well, all of their tier 3s are exposed, and it's Blood Rage plus Empower. This is just ridiculous. We didn't even consider that. This is the kind of thing we were looking for before when the Bloodseeker comes out, but it's in play, and Palos is just an absolute machine.
He definitely is, John. He certainly is looking pretty darn good this game. And Bob, I mean, speaking of looking good, look at Bob. The amount of skills this man's found this game, he's just been absolutely unbelievable. Now Samael going to get a lift off into the Blood Rite, and Palos will rush straight in. However, he's been silenced up. He'll go for the spin back, but Palos, he went too far. He does go down. Still Enryu will get Rupido. Now is looking to make a run as Bob will come back in for a skewer with the Rupture out, and poor old Ken will bleed to death.
Oh, they're doing it. All the combinations that I've always wanted to see with the Bloodseeker.
They look like they're having fun, John. And Bob's got another skewer up, and he'll bring him right back. Yoair, this is not your home, sir. He will try to Stone Gaze as BDZ will roll through with the Rolling Thunder, trying to fight this one out, but there's no damage out from Yoair. He's trying his best, but really nothing's happening. Enryu is still just running away. BDZ, meanwhile, having to run away from Bob. The Earthspit is going to come through. They'll continue trying to fight, but BDZ does die again to Bob. Now the Blood Rite coming through, and the RP, Bob! How does he do it? He just keeps finding more opportunity, and that will be GG.
Oh,
you think Bob's about to die, and he comes back, bulldozing in.
Oh man, Vice. That was brutal. It looked really even early on. Like they were trading kills. It was a slower laning start, but that's not how Execration wanted to play. They had a lineup that needed to go off to a running start, never did. They placed all their eggs onto the basket that Yoair was holding, and he could not deliver the goods. Really well played coming out from Vice, and man, spectacular performances all around, but Bob really just coming to play. From Bob the Builder to Bob the Wrecker, and now Bob the Bulldozer, just outstanding.
It certainly was great play. We'll see if they can repeat it in game number 2. Of course, this is a best of 3 series, and well, the loser will have to be knocked out and they'll have to go home. Winner will proceed, and Vice Esports, they will be 1 game away from proceeding to the next round. But it is MLP Dota as John X Fire. We'll see you all again very, very soon for Number 2 of this best of 3 series between the side of Vice Esports and Execration. It's MLP Dota and Gen X5. John, welcome back, sir. How are you feeling after that game number 1?
I'm feeling pretty excited. Vice, they just came out like a raging bull, like a raging Tamarao, as their logo is, just charging full, heads on, horns up. Execration couldn't take it. Like they drafted something that looked good on paper. They had 4 heroes that could potentially play early. They had the backup in Yoa's Medusa, but they didn't quite get off to that start they wanted. Their laning phase was rough. I mean, at best even. But Vice just managed to get their timings up on Bob. Bob just absolutely destroyed Kent. Right, his Magnus just did way too much work. It's been left here in the first wave of bans as well. So if Execration don't pick it up, Vice could just go for that pick again when it comes around for them. That's something I worry about for Execration. After you see Bob perform like that, with all the skewers he did in the tree line, I don't think that's a hero you can leave for Bob. He just does so much in it.
I don't disagree with you, John. I mean, look, Execration, they might be looking at that game 1 and saying maybe it was a bit of a drafting issue. Maybe there's no necessity to try and run a Medusa draft in game 1. You know, generally speaking, teams will usually leave that till maybe the 3rd game, if you get to that stage, maybe a 2nd game. But perhaps they wanted to try and kind of start their series off with a bang. Obviously, it didn't work out very well in their favor. But like you said, maybe you shouldn't give Bob the mag again, because Bob, he's feeling pretty good today, apparently. We'll see if they do take it, though. For now, Execration, they start with the Mars. They do seem to like Mars. Mars is obviously very popular in the meta, always has been, and well, probably won't be in a couple days, John, because I'm sure he's going to get nerfed to the ground, but, you know, for now, he's still pretty good.
That he is. He's still a solid pick. You've still got the Phoenix to combine it with. You could go with the Medusa as well if you wanted that. But the Phoenix is sniped by Vice this time, so they understand combination can come out for Execration. They don't want to give it away. They can play with it as well. Execration, for their part, do go into the Lina. So we're seeing more than likely the BDZ Lina. And Vice, of course, when you see the Mars, you just take it. The Lifestealer comes out. So you do have a way of just going through the arena with your Rage. You have a decent infest target in the Phoenix. And Lifestealer, again, also against the Lina with a Rage. You're not going to be worried too much. So a very value pick there for Vice. And Execration can have to find a way to deal with that Lifestealer. It can be pesky when some levels come in onto that Rage.
I'd say this is actually a very strong opening for the side of Vice Esports, especially up against the Mars, right? Like you pointed out that that natural kind of, you know, lifesteal, the HB percent based lifesteal that you can take off the Mars. You've got the same thing with the Phoenix though, that percentage based damage, which is extremely effective up against a hero like Mars that, you know, has this shield that he likes to put up, but they won't really care for that now that they have this this Phoenix lifestealer. Still, of course, in the laning phase up against Mars Lina, that could be a pretty annoying lane to be up against for these two, but I suppose for the lifestealer, having that inbuilt rage is going to be quite influential for him this game. But we do go back into the ban phase, John, and they do indeed ban the Magnus out. So they don't want to give the mag away to give the empower to the lifestealer. I think that's a very fair ban to make.
Yeah, I mean, after that performance, you don't want to let it slide through. I do think Execration might want to focus on those mid bans. Bob is just such a key part for how Vice plays. I'm recalling back with Lifestealer here, you have some potential for Vice going into something like the TA, which we've also seen Bob just absolutely dominate in. He's probably not going to go for it in the second phase set of picks, though. He's probably going to try to save it for last if they do get to draft it. But that is something that should be on Execration's mind. We haven't seen all too much TA pickups, but Bob is one of those players that does go back to it in delivery. So with a Lifestealer on hand, should be somewhat telegraphed as well. But there are a lot of things to worry about. You can see Execration take care of the Clockwork combo that can come out with a Phoenix as well. Also taking out another vehicle for the Lifestealer here. But Vice, with their ban, I mean, they take out Ember. Could tell you something, and they go into the CK, so it's time to crash your PC, Mike.
Can I tell you, John, for the first time ever, I played a game of CK Ags myself. It is the dumbest thing. I mean, it's almost a guaranteed win. I don't see how you lose with it. In a pub game, in a pro game, it's a little bit different. Let's be fair,
Yep,
but
yep.
in a pub game, it's kind of like unbeatable. It's pretty darn stupid, John. Let me tell you, it's pretty easy to farm the Ags as well because you hit so hard, they can't really contest you in lane because you're just so lane dominant, and you use your Phantasm illusion to just farm around the map. It's not rocket science, John. It's very easy stuff.
Yeah, definitely is. We're gonna have to see what Execration can do to try to slow that down. As you mentioned, it is going to be a challenge. At the least, you have the range Alina can provide, but you can see Execration are kind of thinking hard about this one, as the CK does complicate matters. Their only real plea right now is, I guess, God's Rebuke from Morse, which is kind of nice, and Alina. So you have decent ways of dealing with the illusion spam, but it's also not quite the best.
Might be a decent Drow game I'm feeling here. Like, maybe it might be a little bit scary into the CK, but there you go. The Venge comes out. They're prepping for the Drow. I don't disagree with it, John. I mean, it can be very scary into that CK because you do have the Rift. But in all fairness, the range isn't that long. So by the time you have a Dragonlance up and maybe you get extremely lucky and have a Grove Bow, I don't think they're necessarily going to be able to reach the Drow anyway. Unless assuming perhaps the CK goes for a Blink Dagger, and that's the way he tries to close the gap. But, yeah, I don't see it. I think you either go Drow or maybe Arc Warden here for Execration. Yep. And just roll with that.
Yeah, I'd say Execration might actually just be eyeing that straight up Arc Warden. That's something we've seen Yoa go back to as well as a failsafe. You've already got the Ven just mentioned, so might be leaning more towards that. I think Drow could be a bit scary with the CK. The pullback is there. We'll have to see. Options are open for Execration. Of course, this does reveal that it's a Lina Venge support duo more than likely, unless they run that core Lina for Ken, which could still be fine. It's very stable down mid, nothing too flashy. It will find farm. Just have to play with the timings it will bring. But I feel like Execration might be pocketing that pick for this next pick of theirs in the closer of this phase. We'll just have to wait and see. Vice thinking hard about this though. Needed support to combine with her Phoenix, and you already lost the Clockwork. You might be looking for something else to get the setup. They do go with the Lich, which is again not the most common support, but we've seen it pop in a couple more times here from the groups of the Pro Series Season 4. And Execration do opt for the Drow instead. So they take the Drow Venge with Alina. You've got ridiculous range. We're going to be looking out for the Telescope, the Grove Bows, all of that fun stuff to balance this lineup. But so far, straightforward for Execration. I do worry about it still. I think Vice can sort of deal with this. As long as the CK goes off to a running start, gets a good Ags timing, and is always active, your Drow might not be able to sit back and just push as safe as she'd like to.
I don't disagree with you on that, John. I mean, it's definitely not a free Drow game. I think we can all agree on that. It is still going to be a decently scary time for the person playing the Drow. Now, mind you, in terms of laning stage, though, when you look at CK versing the Drow, I don't think the CK can really do much in the way of slowing her down. You might be able to CS and deny better, but eventually this Drow should be able to just harass him out of the lane, is what I'm kind of thinking Execration's game plan is. Just harass the crap out of him with the Frost Arrows, have the Venge around to be annoying with the Wave of Terror, and well, we'll see what happens. I mean, it should be a CK Phoenix lane by the looks of it. So, if that's the case, I don't see that particular lane being able to pressure the Drow as much as you would hope.
Yeah, I think it's a back and forth situation. Like, if the CK hits level 3 along with Phoenix, could be a bit dicey, especially if they do get a good Reality Rift backwards. So that's something the Drow's always got to be conscious about. Gotta always be at max range to get the creeps. I think chasing down in this case, I mean, you do have good right click, but it's just not too amazing, especially if Vice space themselves out nicely with that creep wave and just get control. For Vice's part, the CK in that lane will just have to focus on trying to lane control. They might just try to pull the camp towards their way, or maybe just creep cup with a Phoenix to get some EXP. But once you do hit that level 3 mark, should be steady. Execration, maybe if they drag an early Lina up, it would be faster to find early aggression out, and then you can just fix your lane back, split back into dual lanes. That could be something Execration pulls out. but we'll just have to see. We're still looking for a mid here for Execration again, unless they run Lena Core, which doesn't seem likely. Lena Mars is a duo as well. Can sort of pressure the Lifestealer, but we've already talked about that matchup beforehand. You do see the LC and Timbersaw being banned out by Vice. So again, expecting that. Seems like they are expecting something more off lane here, actually. And they do manage to take out the Quap and Void Spirit here from Execration's end. So option for the TA is still there for Vice if they actually wanted that. With a CK Lifestealer, that does sound pretty potent. And Bob does play a mean one. Just unsure, because again, it's not been a very popular pick for anyone outside Bob so far. Could be a good one for it, though. And Execration, I mean, Drow Venge, they do have an option for, I suppose, Beastmaster if they really wanted to go all in. Could run that Mars mid instead, Beastmaster off, Lena support. Could work out if they are kind of flexing it like that.
Actually, I don't mind that if they did go the Beastmaster route. It could, some would call that too greedy, but I think it could actually work. We'll see Execration. They have 10 seconds maximum left. Time is a ticking. What do you want, Execration? Down to the last second, they'll go the Storm Spirit.
Okay.
Okay, so they've got someone now that can actually just fight along with the Mars, the Lena, the Venge. The draft overall, not looking too bad, but the one thing that I am seeing, apart from that Mars, John, is if the CK does find a way to close the gap on these heroes, they are going to explode.
Oh, yeah. 100%. Like, they've got all the damage in the world to get that happening. There are some really good scaling on Execration. I'd say if this game drags on too long, you will have an issue on Vice. They do go with a Tiny here for Bob instead. So you've got that burst. You've got another way of kind of just getting into the middle, taking that punishment up. It's not going to be as easy of a lane for Bob. That's a melee hero up against Storm Spirit. You do have ways of just playing with your tree grab, trying to clear out the wave, maybe get your avalanche toss up as well. But Ken should have a much more stable time here unless he overextends. So he's just got to watch his spacing, get that early farm up. And overall, I'd say a bit tighter of a draft for Execration. You might say it's a bit greedy, but you can make this work as long as you play around towers quickly with your Drow, Venge, and Lena. And Vice, for their part, they have to ensure Enryu gets a good lane. You called it out, but not going to be the easiest of time for the CK Phoenix. There are also opportunities for them, but it's still not the safest lane for a CK. And that is really going to be the big question mark over Vice this time is how far can Enryu take that lane?
We'll find out. I mean, for Execration, obviously, one game. They've got to win this one out to force to a game 3, otherwise they're gone. Vice Esports, they're looking good. Just win this game and you proceed. Have a nice early night. Go have some merienda, maybe some dinner. Maybe it's a bit late for merienda, but you know.
It is.
Why not? It's never too late for merienda, John. Just have merienda whenever.
Yeah, that's fair. You know, it's funny you mentioned whenever, because it's like, so yesterday was the start of something we call Simbang Gabi here in the Philippines, which is like, I don't know how many days, what is it, 9 days before Christmas. You go to mass at 3 a.m. and a lot of people go to it simply because right after outside are people like selling food. Good breakfast foods. So that's what really motivates people to go out. At least the ones I know. Maybe I just know the wrong people, the morally wrong people. That's the main motivation. So it started yesterday. Unfortunately, because of quarantines, a lot of the populated areas don't get to have it. So you just kind of imagine that we have the food at 3 a.m. and you can see lots of good luck, have fun's coming out. Good spirits from everyone. Fun fact as well, I've got to tell you. Yes. Palos is, funny enough, if you take out the S on his name, which becomes Palo, that means slap. So every time they do Palo with just the dollar signs, it's just like they're telling someone to get slapped with money. It just looks like, Palo.
Thank you for that, John. Very
fun facts.
Very educational of you.
I try.
Rupido is having a go at Zenki. This chicken stick is going to be placed there by Zenki. I do remember Rupido. He was very effective on the Mars last time we saw him playing this hero. So I guess it's something we have to look out for, is to see how effective he can be this game around. So last time we did see him, he was playing out of his mind.
That he was. He really set up for his team, and there is that pressure here again. And the Mars needs to get off to a good start as well. You want your early arenas to lead to something big. You don't have an easy target in the Life Stealer, but if you time it while Rage is down, and you tend to only have one value point on Rage, you should find some opportunities. So we'll see how it goes. Does have BDZ as his laning partner, Rupido. So you've got Lina around, really good range. You've got that early Blightstone start here for BDZ, so he can get the minus armor out, which will make it tougher for Zenki and Palos, although Zenki, once he has that Frost Shield, can mitigate some of that minus armor. So it should be a decent back and forth here, and just have to see how well BDZ can control up Palos and Zenki.
Funny BDZ went this Blightstone, because I was having a conversation with another analyst about this Lina Bloodstone, excuse me, not Bloodstone, the Blightstone pickup. And we were arguing about whether the Blightstone on Lina is actually good. I was saying it was, he was saying it wasn't. And I'm curious, do you think it's good, John?
I think it is in most cases, although.
Samael, yeah, he's in trouble. Ooh. He's going to go down, and that's something we talked about, though. It looks like Enryu is going to be able to find a trade onto the support, but Yoe, of course, going to be very happy with getting that first blood gold. But back to the question, John. Blightstone Lina, do you think it's good?
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty darn nice, especially once you get your level 2, level 3, so you get a value point in the Fiery Soul. It makes your right clicks that much more potent, and it's pretty nice when you have a core that can follow up with it. So in this case, Rupido, of course, that does help amplify Scott's Rebuke as well. No, Zenki.
Zenki, oh, he's going to go down. Palos still trying to go after BDZ. Light Strike Array will come out and will be completely avoided by Palos, but a nice pick up there for our Mars. Because I was having a quick look at the mid lane where Bob on the Tiny was dropping very, very low in terms of HP. It's like Ken has been very active on this Storm mid. And Bob is completely out of regen, but he does have his courier coming out. I'm sure that has a nice bit of regen on it. However,
Yoe?
top lane, Yoe is going to be in danger, and he does get caught out.
Ooh, that is very tough. After getting first blood and you bleed out like this, it doesn't set you up well. This is the spike that we're starting to see from Vice. Level 3 is up in Enryu. He does go for 1-1-1. So he does have his full set of control. Now if Samael hits his level 3 as well, this is not going to be a fun lane for the Drow. So Yawi's got to start watching that spacing. There's only so much RR can do in this lane.
Yeah, I don't think Yoa was expecting the Rift to be up. He probably should have, but it doesn't matter. That's over now. We'll see how he deals with it at this stage of the lane. However, mid lane, Ken is eventually going to be able to get the kill onto Bob, and that's a solo pick off there from Ken. However, Samael going to rotate on the Phoenix, but he is only level 2. So chances are he's not going to get the kill, and he might feed one away if he's not too careful. More Fire Spirits to come out. Ken is being a bit too aggressive. He will die to Samael. However, while Samael's gone, Yoe ends up getting a kill onto Enryu.
Yeah, a lot of back and forth in this game. Execration still going to be happy about that. They're slowing down Bob a lot more. Ken is having a good start. That is what you want from your Storm. Not going to be too happy about dying. That gives Bob some space to recover. But the start for RCK as well, it's not the smoothest. So just trading yourself there for the mid is sort of wonky when you've already lost your own mid. And Yowie just gets to recover a bit, although you can see them playing tag. Overall, still fairly even, but Execration is starting to get a little bit more. Definitely an improvement from game 1. You just have to keep this pace up and really build on Ken. Like your Drow is fine, your Venge is fine, but Ken has to be up.
Rift back, RR is going to go down now. Yoe being left behind by himself is going to have a TP from a teammate coming in, and Samael may end up going down, and it looks like he will. Yoe is able to pick up a counter kill for himself. That'll make it so this Drow is 3-1 now. However, bot lane, Rupiro trying to have a go at Zenki is going to be able to get a nice spear off, but it looks like he is not going to chase Zenki down, as he did have the Frost Shield going, and he probably wouldn't have found the kill anyway.
Yeah, it's a really tough time to handle though.
Now Bob's in trouble. He's trying to make a run for it. Samael's going to come in to help. Bob still dropping very low. They need one more hit. They can't quite get it. But Bob is having a very, very tough game on this Tiny thus far.
Yeah, and that's just a big difference here for Execration. They've got such a good start for Ken. They are getting a lot more in the Storm, and this is what they need. They are not getting as much as they'd want
Bob?
on their other lane, so, but yeah.
BDZ? He got Bob. It looks like Bob made the rotation for the bounty rune, and BDZ read him. Read him like a book.
Yeah, it's that 5-minute mark. He knew he could snipe the bounty. They did see the Tiny low, so they get some good punishment out. Bob's got to be a bit cautious. He's falling a bit behind the Tiny. He's going to need his, at least now, level spikes. And his blink time has been really delayed from that. And you can see the rotation top.
Oh, they've got Enryu now. BDZ, another nice rotation out with RR. And Yoe, he puts the hand up. He wants a high five. He's not going to get one, but I don't think he minds too much. He prefers the life of the Chaos Knight, of course.
Yeah, they are just getting all these early rotations out. Execration now, the ones much more active in this early game. They are securing themselves a lot of farm. You can see Yoe really start to pull away in that fourth now as well very early on. But this is an excellent sign for Execration. Vice need to find a way to get the supports active.
Oh, Ken mid lane almost drops, but they didn't have quite enough damage. Ken going to be able to escape with about 60 HP for himself. Bob not going to be too happy about that. I'm sure he was so darn close to getting the kill.
No, it's just not lining up. He's a level behind now, the Storm. And that's just not where you want to be. The Storm just gets so much more control and space. And they're keeping that trial lane up top as well. Yoe?
Oh, they could be in trouble. They go for the dive onto Yoe, but it was all a bait. And Ryu now going to be in massive danger. They'll drop the Frost Shield, though. Here comes Zenki to try and help out, but Ken's now here. Ken with the rotation back from the fountain going on to Samael, and he'll find another. Really great plays out from Execration this game, number 2. And it's really not working out nicely at all for Vice Esports.
They're starting to crumble. You've got Bob around here trying to find some punishment though, but they are still clumped up. The only good thing to come out for Vice is the fact that they're getting farm here on Palos. He's still keeping up. Number 3 so far, not under pressure from the solo Mars lane, but that's to be expected. And the Lifestealer doesn't flash farm like a Drow does. So they're going to have to watch themselves with how much they're giving here to Yoe. He is just getting way too much value, and they're finding more.
Yeah, Ken having a great game, setting up another kill here for Yoe. They are very, very focused in on trying to deal with this Drow Ranger, but the more they try to gank her right now, the more she gets.
And it's just way too much being bled out here. Vice needs to tighten up their aggression, focus on getting some stacks out, trying to get some farm up as well. You need Bob to hit his blink timing, and so far, with all the time he's wasted around map, he's actually bottom of all the Corsi network, barely above Samael on his Phoenix. So he's barely above his own support. He's behind BDZ's Lina. This is just not the kind of start we're used to seeing from Bob, but and that's just the way the cookie crumbled. That lane match was just never good for him.
Henry, he's trying to go again onto BDZ, but the Laguna's going to come out. He's going to drop. Zenki now trying to get a trade. He can't get it. BDZ going to be able to get a double kill for himself. And Vice Esports, they probably need to stop running at them right now as mid lane. Oh, Bob. Oh, not Bob. Ken. Oh, he can't get the attack off. The Fire Spirit slow, but Bob's still in danger. He'll turn back around for an avalanche, but the toss, Bob, I'm not sure about this. He gets it off, tosses Ken away. Now the rift back in from Enryu, but the Vortex is there. Ken still trying to run. Enryu going to get the stun off, but does he have the damage output? Bob's coming back in, but it looks like they have not got what it takes. And Yoe going to slow Enryu down, kite him around. Bob came back in, but it's just a mess. An absolute mess here for Vice Esports' Execration. A 5k net worth lead now for this dire side.
5k at 9 minutes in, that is massive. They're off to a running start. They are, looks like they fixed the issues they had from game 1. They're just constantly on the lookout for opportunities. They've smoked up once more. Could find Palos.
Well, they found him all right. The swap is there, but the infest onto a creep is not going to be enough. Palos still trying to run. They don't even need the arena. They just drop the Laguna Blade straight on his head. Yeah, it's rough. It is really rough for Vice. That was your life stealer going down as well. Like he was free farming the whole game, but he's still behind the Drow, who's 6-1 and 2 now.
Yeah, it's too much coming out here from Execration. They've just been allowed to do a lot. They've got this Venge stacking efficiently as well, which we haven't seen come out from Vice. They haven't been able to build any meaningful stacks this game. So they're starting to fall severely behind. It is going to become an issue with how well Ken is doing here, 2-1-5. And they're going to be able to line up for the objectives. This is, again, where Execration's draft does really shine. They can mount these towers fast, and Vice just cannot trade as well. They are trying in the top tier 1, though, but they might lose some hero spot.
Oh, BDZ ends up going down. Bob didn't quite catch that one, John, but it looks like an avalanche toss combination caught him. However, Rupido trying to come in for an arena does catch him, but Gaze is going to be there into an avalanche and an egg. Zenki might drop and does, but they can't finish off Bob. Here comes Enryu with the egg set up out onto the Mars. They will get one. They'll go onto Yoe, but the gust is out. Yoe going to try and make a run for it. However, the avalanche is going to be out as well. The swap out from RR is going to save the day, but Yoe is coming back in, though I'm not sure about that one. BDZ is around to help, and it looks like they are a bit too low now. They need to run away, but Yoe has the control along with BDZ. They do at least get the CK for their trouble.
Oh, man, it's still something for Vice. They do still sort of win out. They found a tier 1 tower up top as well, but if they keep these fights for too long, no egg, it's going to be a bit risky. They need a blink on Bob to be really comfy, although they will try.
Yeah, they will. Yoe, gust away is going to be nice onto Zenki. Zenki already quite low. Bob trying to find a way in, but no. Yoe finds another kill for himself. And Bob's just going to have to run. I think the fact that Bob is nowhere near his blink dagger timing is really going to hurt the side of Vice Esports. He needs to farm it up ASAP.
He needs to find it within at least the next 5 minutes. Even then, that's not a very comfy spot. They are just losing too much. And you can see Ken just absolutely bullying Enryu. Enryu's been stuck at level 6 for so long as the off-lane CK. We talked about the Ag's timing for this here. It doesn't look like he's even going to be able to rush it. He's going for drums first, just to have a little bit more presence. Vice still 5k behind, but at 12 minutes in, that's still just as bad. You can see even the build-up here on BDZ is... BDZ's ahead of Bob and Enryu. That's what you're playing right now. The pause 4 of the enemy team is above your mid and your off lane. And Vice, they're going to need to either stall out or find some big pickoffs, but neither of those are going to happen all too well until they meet their own item timings. And just look at how well Yoa gets to clear out these stacks. Just insane efficiency that you can't get from a life sealer.
That is very true. Things will calm down just a little bit, and that'll give Vice time to farm up. It also gives Execration time to farm up plenty as well, as Yoe really starting to take over in terms of net worth. Is just farming stacks away. Got the 4 staff up now, going straight into that Hurricane Pike, and we'll have enough gold for that in just a moment. Even our Mars, like, you're just casually farming for a Yules. No pressure here for him. Very relaxed, just enjoying the bot lane. Understanding they can't really kill him right now. But it looks like Vice Esports, they've had enough of that farming game. They go back into a smoke now with Bob and Zenki.
Oh boy.
They're trying to have a look around, but there's going to be a counter smoke now out from Execration. This could be very, very dangerous for Vice, as Enryu mid lane is just slowly farming up. He's going to pop the Phantasm and try to use that to escalate, but the zip in can. He's going to get the Vortex off into the Light Strike Array, and it's going to be a nice, quick, easy kill. Into that tier 1 mid tower they go.
Yeah, it's going to be a nice objective to bounce back with. They do try to look for more, but they don't really manage to close out. Still going to be a strong objective, and you can see the push potential once again shining through. BDZ and Yoe are just giving so much more because they've got this Venge. Just take the easy tower. 7k lead now, 7-18. A complete flip from how game 1 went. And Vice, they're the ones on the back burner now. They're the ones just not finding any single objective on the map. They have given Palos a lot of space up top to slap away at that tier 2. But his farm is still desperately behind our Drow. We're looking at 8k up against 6.6. That's a nice item advantage. Yoa does give himself. He is saving up for the Yasha now on the Drow as well. So you're going to have even more damage coming through, even more mobility. And our Storm has the Kaya. So it's going to be a fairly easy run into the Bloodstone. And if Ken keeps finding kills with that Bloodstone up, it's just going to be that much harder to manage.
We go into another kind of quiet period, but this is probably the best time for Bob to just try and get that blink up. It's, it just feels like they have no way to catch the Drow without it. In fact, top lane. Palos, he's getting caught out again. Now Ken gonna zip right in on the Storm, and we'll find Zenki. Nice, easy pickups as Bob. I'm not sure what his game plan was there, but he does get swapped out. It's like he's just gonna make a run away. You can really start to feel the desperation here with the way they're farming on Vice. They're trying to really push it, but every time they do, they do end up getting punished. It's one of those games where Vice, I don't feel like they can really show on the map right now.
No, and they've got no options. They can't really play aggressive. They can't take the risk. They need to just ward their own side and play it safe with a farm.
Samael, is it really worth the dive for that illusion rune? Those are the kind of plays you start to question. It's like, why did you go for that?
No excuses for that one. Just really greedy, and Vice need to reel that greed in. Hunker down. Execration, for their part, they're playing perfectly. You know, they're punishing the overstepping of Vice. They've taken control of the map. They found this farm. They're constantly up with the smokes, and they're always out hunting. So Vice, just constantly falling behind, and just no way to really stop this. Like, the smoke might not lead to anything big. They might catch out Bob. Could be, again, the most important target. He's just about 100 gold off his blink. If he dies here, that's going to hurt.
He's got enough gold for the blink now. Bob, yeah, he's going to buy it out. He knows he's dead. He tried to go for a cheeky juke, but it's just nothing to juke into. Another great kill out for Execration. 9k now is the net worth lead for them, as they do begin to move through the top lane into that tier 1 tower. They're just desperately trying to farm up. Palos trying to get a Desolator up first, it looks like. They could try for the defense here. I just don't think it's going to work out in their favor. I suppose the best you can do is put the Frost Shield there and just slow it down. Looks like they are grouping up. They want to try and force a team fight, Vice. Infest is there. Bob with the blink now, maybe going for a surprise reel. Has spotted out Yoe. That's a huge target. He'll make the jump in, but he's way too late. Light Strike Array is going to come out. Palos, he'll jump out of the Infest now, chasing down the Drow Ranger. Meanwhile, Rupido is in a little bit of trouble. He may get taken down and does by Palos. Back in onto Yoe. That's the target they want, but Yoe is still just running away. Now the Sunray out with the Spirit Vessel. Enryu with the stun. They might get him, and they do. In comes Ken now on the Storm. Does kill off Palos and might be able to clean up everyone else. Zara does also go down. Zenki, he's going to be left behind. He will die in the Lich. That may just be it, unless Bob can come in for another quick kill. Looks like Samael is going to get caught and does die, but now the Avalanche Toss is there from Bob. BDZ still not dying. Light Strike Array not going to connect, and looks like Bob will be very happy to just run away with that kill. And overall, even though it kind of went bad at the end, that team fight, I'm sure, did favor Vice Esports quite a bit.
It does, mainly because they were just so far behind. It was 1.9k gold going their way. So you'd consider that win really decent reveal of Bob's blink, although he missed the opportunity. You need to be on point when you jump the Drow. The Hurricane Pike means it's harder to land your combo. So Yoa responds in time, calls out the fight long enough to really force it to be wobbly for Vice, but at least with that blink he got options, although...
Okay, Ken's having a field down the Storm. He's having the freest game of his life right now. And they might go for another smoke. They've grouped up in that mid lane, Execration.
Taking a look around, I see Enryu going for the blink. I don't know how useful that will be. Like, he can go in, get his Reality Rift and stun off. It doesn't feel like it's going to be enough by himself. He does have his Tiny to follow up, so you're supposed to just stack your damage onto the Lifestealer. The Rosh is slowly being taken, but they did smoke up and get some good scans out from each team, so they know what's up.
We're going to jump in. Bob, a great avalanche toss out onto 3 heroes, but the arena going to be dropped in. Yoe actually goes down. He went down to Samael's egg damage. A great rotation out from Vice Esports. However, the zip in. Can! He got the Aegis off him. He snatches it away. He's going to lose it straight off the bat. RR also going down. And now if they can find the Storm kill, it'll be pretty darn amazing as the gaze does come in. But Enryu, he was stunned up. Ken going back in, will kill off the CK. Now Samael getting very, very low. The Palos trying to go onto Rupiro. However, Ken actually dies to Bob. It's BDZ now, trapped between a rock and a hard place. Is going to try and run, but Bob will have the avalanche very soon and does go for the toss first. And Palos now going to get right on top and get the damage out. It was a very nice Aegis steal out from Ken, but he ends up losing his life in the end, and pretty much everyone else on his team also lost their lives in that. Bit of a disastrous kind of Roche fight here for Execration.
Strong punishment coming out from Vice. It looked like both sides were going to be rather cautious because of the scans. But I believe that was mainly because Ken got caught by a bash in pit. So he was caught in the middle and they were forced to respond. Bob?
Bob.
Alright. A bit greedy, trying to look for a pick off. Maybe just feeling, off that high of finding those kills. Gets punished, so that tempers down the swing there for Vice, but they're still in a really good spot. Palos is actually keeping up with our Drow despite all things. 1k behind, considering how bad this game has gone for Vice, that is something to be happy about. Your life healer is keeping up in farm. You still need to somewhat play catch up with Bob, and Enryu is still in a very sad spot as the CK, but you are getting a little bit more. Execration for their part, I think it's down to just giving Yoe the proper position. He's been caught out a couple of times, and that has been really easy to punish. They need to sort of space out Yoe and RR. Right now, they're a bit too close. There's not many opportunities for swap saves in those tight spaces. So that it really comes down to the Venge maybe keeping a safe distance away from Yoe to get that bailout. Still, blink up on Rupido means they've got more ways of initiating, more ways to follow up on Ken. This could be when Execration start to find some of their own fights now, as they've got that spike and they blink up, they smoke up.
That they do. Gonna be very cautious though, not to give too many more kills away. I think Henry, you're gonna be caught out there on the CK. Nice pick up there, and in fact Ken just keeps going. He wants more. Bob was on the tail end of that spear, but he's going to be all right. Now Bob looks to try and turn it back around. Who's he gone on, though? It's like Palos does jump out. BDZ going to be targeted first, but a nice swap out there from the Venge, saving the day. He still does die, but so does Samael on the Phoenix. They continue. Zenki getting very, very low. Rupido jumping in, trying to deal with the CK. Meanwhile, the rest chasing down Palos on the Lifestealer. He's in big, big danger trying to get up the staircase right now. Bob, caught out by the Vortex, is going to be surrounded and is going to drop. And it does end up being a pretty awkward team fight for them. They went in 4v5 without their CK and it does not work out.
And the bigger factor there was that they lost Samael off the bat. They needed the egg to come in. The egg outside the arena has been helping Vice a ton, but without Samael around, they couldn't force Execration to choose where to fight, and it just caused all sort of awkwardness. Still, not the biggest swing for Execration. That is because of how far ahead they are. They're not getting as much gold anymore from these kills. They are keeping Vice down, but the gap has kind of stabilized at 10 to 11k here, so still relatively even, although Palos...
He's going to rage TP. It looks like he will be alright. It is the one saving grace right now, the fact that Palos is still farming quite nicely on the Lifestealer. But you do really need a good infest target like the CK who can blink in, or the Tiny, to be able to really just focus down Yoe in these team fights. And of course, it has been rather difficult as well because you've got RR on the Venge, and he's been very on point with the swaps this game. constantly saving out his cores over and over again. Mid lane. He spotted out Ken. Oh, zip away Ken, perfect timing. Now going to jump back in for a Vortex, and Rupido is there with the arena. They'll try to drop the egg to save their Tiny, but they cannot. Bomb will drop. Perhaps they'll find a Mars response, or maybe not. Yoweri is here now with a great multi-shot out, and they are just going to melt. Nice and easy for Execration. It doesn't even look like a challenge for them right now.
No, it's a complete flip from game one. They're the ones putting Vice in the Vice script now, hammering on those tier 2s. Vice, just really awkward spots. Like, they can get the egg off, but now with the ults on Rupido, it's hard to lock him in. You can just ults before it pops, and they're just not finding the angles. They forced that fight without Palos. They're going to go straight into the high ground. No buybacks here, no egg in the respawn, so options for defense very limited for Vice.
Yeah, it certainly is. That mid-Rax certainly going down. They will probably back off straight after this mid-Rax. Oh, Zenki going for a cheeky TP. Will have to cancel it off. However, Bob gonna jump in, but an immediate Yule's up, and he's gone. In they go again. Ken feeling himself right now. Gonna go after the Lich, and Zenki is gonna die. Alright, maybe they can go to the bot lane.
Now, fortunately for Vice, there are still tier 2s to take out. So it's not an immediate push into the high ground for Execration. That does give them some much needed time. Respawns are still fairly short, so every second counts. But these objectives still melt, so they're still gotta be cautious with how they come in here.
Tier 3 tower. Dropped very, very easily. So no confidence in Vice Esports to defend, I'm sure. They're going to try. Enryu immediately gusts it up. Palos has to jump out. He'll try to take down the Drow. They're going to lose Samael and RR once again. A great swap out on the Drow. They will swap back. The lifestealer, Bob trying to jump in for an avalanche toss. It is not going to be enough. They'll call it. Just nothing working out in their favor. And Execration will be able to force this game out to a game number 3.
Yep, excellent plays coming out from Execration here. They were the ones to bring it to Vice this time around. They had a draft that played fast. They didn't have to sit around. They didn't have to wait for Yoa to reach a certain point in the game. They just won out their lanes, won out the matchups. This is what we were looking for from their draft in game 1. Comes out here in game 2. Vice looked a lot worse than we'd expect. Like, they looked amazing in game 1. They look kind of lost here in game 2. We'll have to see if game 3 shakes them up, as it is their tournament lives on the line. It is a best of 3, so it's elimination time. One of these teams, whoever loses the next one, is out. So you'd expect a little bit more fight there from Vice as well.
With that, John, of course, we are going to head over to a short break, and after that break, we are going to be back with our third game of this lower bracket best of 3. See you soon. Esports and Execration. It is, of course, MLP Dota and John Fire. John, welcome back, sir. How you doing?
Now, it's our first series here for elimination. We go all the way to game 3. Both teams on the edge of ending their tournament lives here. Gonna be an exciting one to see what they pull out. Execration in game 2 looked absolutely amazing. Like they flicked the switch on after the game 1 performance. They delivered the goods this time. Vice, we've got to see what they bring out. They looked a bit lost. Bob, overextended multiple times. His tiny mid up against the storm, not panning out. So they've got a lot of issues to fix. And now I think we can say we've seen both teams at probably their best point. This is when the true test comes out. They know how far they can push each other, and we'll just have to see what they bring out here for Game 3.
All right. Well, they do start off with the first pick, Leshrac, which has been extremely popular. Of course, on the tail end of the meta, people realizing Leshrac is a broken hero once everyone else does get nerfed, so they do go ahead and pick that one up. Vice Esports, meanwhile,
5 seconds remain.
they'll have a think about their first pickups.
They've got the option to start with the Phoenix, the Mars, the Magnus if they wanted to. They might be worried about the Leshrac kind of ruining all their plans. We've seen teams try to go back to Nyx, which has been up and down. It doesn't feel as amazing, but I suppose against something like the Leshrac, you might be able to get some value. So we'll just see what Vice goes for. It's fairly open. You don't quite know enough when you see just the Lesh. It's just pretty potent by itself. So Vice needs to kind of weigh that out. Go with a Mirana pick. So again, a bit of a shakeout. Ignoring all these big team fighters. Magnus ignored. Phoenix ignored. Mars ignored. All of them not banned out. And these tend to be first phase bans in one shape or form. So now Execration could possibly go back into the Mars that we just saw from Rupido. Really deliver the goods there. You run the risk of maybe opening with your 2 cores first. But if you are looking for the Mars, this is probably the best time to get it. And they do take it before it can be banned out. It's just surprising that Vice kind of let that slide through after what Rupido did in game number 2.
Absolutely. They do go back into the Mars, like you said, and that does bring a lot more confidence in me for Execration this game number 3, just based off that previous performance. Vice Esports, they will go back for the Lifestealer. So we've seen this before. Of course, they have switched it up with their position 4 pick. They do go for the Mirana this time around. Now, I'm not sure that's going to make all the difference this game, but I suppose the Lifestealer into the Mars is still a pretty decent pick to make. Well, it's now a question of whether they're actually going to ban out things like the Drow. Because even now with the Lesh Mars, it does feel like the Drow kind of fits again. You can have this kind of insane, snowbally sort of lineup if you so wish. And perhaps Vice might feel a bit more ready for it, but I don't know about this. I think if you do want, you just go ahead and pick up the Drow again.
Yeah, it's such a straightforward pick for Execration if they wanted to. Their banouts as well kind of indicate that. Like when you take out this Bat Rider, that's one way that really deals with the Drow. So they're just keeping that Drow pick safe down the line. I think Vice have to be a bit cautious about falling back into that trap. You exchange the Lina with a Lesh, but that is still really strong. And Execration actually paying respect towards that. CK do take it out. Don't want to run the risk. They did get good control in the CK last time, though. But it looks like they just don't want to risk it. There were some times early in that last game where our CK was getting the good reality rips backwards, and Vice do correct that issue. No more Drow, so Execration's going to have to look elsewhere for that fast snowball kind of game.
That they will. Vice Esports. Back to their third pickup now. You'd imagine they just go for a support pick here.
10 seconds remain.
Question is what it's going to be.
5 seconds remain.
Well, it looks like they might just be going with the Mirana 4. You don't have any... I mean, that's a decent vehicle for your Lifestealer, but it's not ideal. Might be looking for at the Pause 5 to beef up their Lifestealer. Ogre Magi with a buff is nice. I don't think they should go back to the Lich. Doesn't do anything against the Leshrac. Barely helps you against the Mars. So maybe something like an Ogre could be nice in the front just to help your Lifestealer right click if they are looking for support. And it is the Ogre. So what's that? 2 for 2 so far?
Very nice work, John. Execration, seeing that Ogre, they won't think too long. They do go back into an Elder Titan pickup now, so once again, very snowbally, very kind of aggressive drafting here from Execration. I do like what I'm seeing so far from both teams. I am still wondering what Execration go to for their position 1, as they haven't quite picked it up yet. Vice Esports, though, their 4th pickup now. They're looking for a mid or an off lane. I imagine we will just see an off-lane pick being made here for Vice. Difficulty being that they still don't know what the position 1 is that they're going up against. So maybe a little bit challenging to decide what exactly you do want. I suppose that can allow you to just go for the mid as well if you do wish, but...
True. It's a bit risky. You have last pick overall for Vice. I think you can kind of avoid the mid pickup. They might just look for something to give their life stealer a natural vehicle. Slaughter would have been nice. They go to Void Spirit, so it is keeping in flex now. We've seen Void Spirit off. Could just be our here for Bob. Void Spirit is a force to be reckoned with as well. Could be safe. We'll just have to see. Execration right now with ET out. They might just be looking at the Lesh core, and it is. So they go Shadow Demon as their support. Really straightforward combos here. Disruption into Stomp, Disruption into Spear, and Disruption to save, and Disruption into the Split Earth. Set up for all 3 heroes. Very nice Shadow Demon game. And the Demonic Purge gives you control for the Lifestealer. So even if he rages up, he's not going to be safe here.
That he is not. Final banouts now to come. Execration, of course, they got to start focusing in on those offlane picks, just in case this Void Spirit is not going to be in the offlane, which it probably will just be mid. They do get rid of the Bloodseeker and the Night Stalker, and Vice Esports getting rid of the TB for now. And the AM. What do you really have left here for Execration as a POS 1? We won't have to really think about it. Of course, the Void was there. Of course it was.
Yeah, it's a really nice Void game. Void ET, Void Lesh coming out. The Void Moors as well, which for some reason we see, but there's not as much synergy. Still, Lesh Rack, spells go right through the Chrono. The Stomp from the ET, the ult from the ET, and Vice do take the Tide. This is juicy. Tide Hunter slides through. Tide versus Void. Ravage versus Chrono. Always fun to watch. Gonna have to see what they pull out here, and it's gonna be a fantastic last game of this series. Tournament lives on the line once more. Both teams need that win to get wrecked by the next patch, because their next match will be in that new patch. So you want to find that win. You want to keep the journey going. I have to say, Mike, you look at Enryu's Tide. He's not all in on the dad bod. Like he's got that stupid hat, but he doesn't have the stomach.
Oh no.
He doesn't have the stomach.
Yeah, he's covered it up, John. He's wearing some kind of body armor, which is very upsetting. Very upsetting stuff indeed. I do wonder whether this is going to affect his performance. I suppose only time's going to tell, as we will be getting into game number 3 very soon. And of course, the winner of this will go through the lower bracket, and the loser will have to go home. Not that there's anywhere to go. They are probably still home, as we are still stuck in a pandemic. But you get my drift, John. They've got to leave the tournament.
Yeah, and you don't want to end your journey early. You want to go up there for the prize pool, Mike. Very tasty prize pool for our teams in C. So you would want to stay in. Still, can be a bit of a challenging one for both sides. Really good back and forth. Every time you see Void versus Tide, it's always just so fun, because you know both sides are going to be playing on the edge, right? They're going to be watching out for who drops what first, what position you can get in for the Chrono, how far you can be for the Ravage. And it just leads to really big team fights from both sides. It's a lot of sweaty situations.
We'll have a quick pause coming out before we do get to carry on, as both people asking for a second, apparently. Overall, when you look at both drafts, who do you think you prefer in this game 3?
I'd give the edge to Execration. It's the Void effect. Like when Chrono's up, the Lifestealer just doesn't win that at all. There's no way you win. You have a lot more synergy as well with the Chrono here. You've got this Lesh Rack around. You've got the Earth Splitter here from your Elder Titan. You've got really nice lanes with the supports you have, Rupido plus the Shadow Demon, is going to be really good. And I think that is something they can opt to do. Really just bully out with. Once you hit level 2, level 3 on that, get the Disruption Spear off, you will have a really nice time. The one issue is Vice do have really tanky heroes in their lanes. Right? Ogre Magi is not something you can bully out cleanly. Palos as well is a life stealer, so they're fairly tanky. And will take a bit to kind of trade out if Execration wants to go for that early aggression. So I think Vice has it in their tank to hold out. But as the game goes on, you're always going to favor Face's Void game. Yoe, as long as he doesn't fall behind early. What are these guys doing? As long as they don't fall behind early, they can really just to rely on the Void. And I have to say, you know what you call this when you use those symbols for letters? In the Philippines, we have one word for that. We call it judge.
Ooh,
Interesting.
Jedge.
Yeah, Jejemon. Because you also type he with a J instead.
What?
And it's like, yeah. So it becomes like Spanish, it becomes a silent J. So it used to be back then, you'd type like that, and you'd also type J-E-J-E, he. They became known as Jejemon. So it's a bit of a throwback to see that many symbols in all chat, boys.
Ah, well, nothing wrong with a bit of the old school stuff, John. These players are getting old too, I'm sure, John. You gotta appreciate the age that we're coming to now.
Yeah. It's a relic now.
Yeah.
Kids don't speak like that anymore. I think for the better good. But now they say stuff like My Little Pogchamp. MLP.
It's better than My Little Pony, John. I'll take the PogChamp one. It's fine. Looks like there might be a bit of a scuffle over the bounty runes. The bot ones look to be secured here by the Dire side. Meanwhile, top, Enryu and Yoe trying to fight over them, but Enryu does manage to take them away. And we'll turn back around onto the Void. And, force him back. So this lane of Mirana Tide versing this Void, it could be quite painful for this Void, right? You've constantly got to be on the lookout for the arrows that could be flying in from this Mirana. Even when they're not, the Anchor Smash is going to be quite frustrating to be up against as the Tide Hunter. The Yoe might struggle to find that early farm in the laning phase.
Yeah, they can get that zoning out. Really nice arrow landing onto RR already. That's going to slow him down. And with level 1 Gush, you don't want to be trading too hard. Still, the slaps from the Stapler, man, are hard. And Samuel's going to be careful. Look at that. Balanced.
You need that. You need those leap charges up ASAP, I'd say, for Samael. He'll probably stick around and try to soak level 2 off Enryu, as it's just not going to be worth trying to contest this lane if the Older Titan's allowed to do that every single time. Meanwhile, of course, in the mid lane, looks like you do have Bob and Ken at it once again. Bob this time, he is going to be playing the Void Spirit up against the Leshrac of Ken. And while I was looking away, Samael ends up dropping very low in terms of HP. But nonetheless, he does get a salve. And the point I was trying to make is, Bob, you'd hope he has a bit of a better game than last game around. As that tiny game in game 2 was pretty rough for it.
It really was. This time around, he should have a better time. Like, you have much more stable wave clear with your Resonant Pulse on the Void Spirit. You still are a melee up against a range, and this is a lot of magic damage you can expect from Ken. So your Resonant Pulse isn't blocking as much, but it should still be a bit more steady for Bob. You're already seeing that. 11-2 up against Ken's 8-1, so not a complete washout yet. Seeing rather even lane so far down bot, though Rupido was being shoved away, is fairly low, and now BDZ is on the wrong side of the map.
That he is. Palos going to chase him down a little bit with Zenki, but they already used the Ignite onto Rupido, so they couldn't quite hang on to the Shadow Demon. Top lane, RR, copying a lot of damage on that Elder Titan, and Samael wants to go for the kill attempt. Arrow is not going to land, but it was quite close. RR is going to try and run, but Enryu is still on the chase, has a gush up, but he needs some vision, and he can't quite find it. So RR going to be able to walk away. Meanwhile, mid lane, Ken is also going to get very, very low, but he is going to be able to avoid that Aether Remnant being thrown out by Bob, and he's going to survive another day.
Yeah, just close calls all across the map. Really forcing our sports to walk back home. RR is going to have to go back to regen. Maybe carry some stuff over for his core. But you're seeing that difference down mid widen. 19-5 now for Bob. Ken 10-1. So Bob is having that good start. And this could make all the difference for Vice. As long as Bob gets off to good level 6 timing, he can be active in the map and start buying some space out for the rest of his team.
That he can. Thing is, now Ken's really giving it back to Bob, and Bob is out of regen. Just has a Fairy Fire up. So he might play with fire and wait for that 4-minute power route. But you'd hope he's able to secure it if that's the game plan here. Bot lane, it's been a bit of a slow start here for Palos. I want to say like 12-2 is not too bad, but it does seem as though BDZ and Rupido have been doing a pretty darn good job in just kind of shutting him down and not making him feel very comfortable in this lane. I mean, Palos has also been left alone for this moment as they have rotated for the 4-minute power runes. Looks like they want to try and make sure Bob has a good time by securing this 4-minute power rune. Problem is, Samael will be forced to take it, and that'll mean that poor old Bob will be still left with an empty bottle.
Yeah, no top up for Bob, but that also means no top up for Ken. He is forced himself to hold this lane. So it's rather even. You're still seeing a little bit more EXP out in Bob. He drops the chicken, and again that gap in that gap in last hits still maintained. So you're still happy here on the side of Vice. Slight net worth lead their side. Still waiting for that first blood 4.5 minutes in. Really tempered game out from both teams.
That it is. Top lane, Yoe. Looks like they were trying to throw an arrow out, but bot lane is where the first blood occurs. BDZ able to pick it up on the Shadow Demon using those Shadow Poisons. It's like Rupido was unable to take the kill for himself, and I believe they were trying to give it to him. Still, though, first blood going to BDZ, you're going to be pretty happy if you are Execration.
Yeah, definitely. You're giving yourself a slight injection. Not in the hero you want, but at least it's out of the way. Vice, not going to be too happy, but at the same time, if you look at how Palos is doing down bot, he is at least not falling too far behind compared to Rupido. The issue is, Yoe, in comparison, is having a much better time up top. You are getting more pressure out from Enryu, but he's not been focused too much on slowing the Void. And that could be an issue. Yoe, we've seen what happens when he does go off to this fantastic start. He is saving up for his Mask of Madness. I believe the Morbid Mask is out. So he's still going to hit some really good item spikes here in the Void. And you're going to have to watch that timing when he hits 6. They might just look for an easy rotation out from Ken to make something happen top.
Oh, Ara getting caught out on that Elder Titan is going to go down thanks to Zenki and Samael. Just going to make the retreat now, go for a quick smoke into the mid lane where an Aether Remnant is going to catch out Ken. He's trying to slow him down as much as possible, but a Shadow Disruption is going to come out. Bob is going to dissimulate, try to get away, but now Ken's going back in for more. That'll be it. Ara even going to rotate to make sure the bottle of Ken is going to be filled up. Looks like the rotation now is going to be up towards that top lane where Zenki and Samael, they might try to go after this Faceless Void. See what they can get done. Or maybe not, because RR is going to catch them out. That should give enough knowledge to Yoe to stay away right now, as it is quite dangerous around these areas. That being said, he does hold on to the Chrono, so maybe he doesn't feel so unsafe, but he's going to try farming the small camp. Zenki sneaking up behind. Meanwhile, Rupido does go down to the bot lane, and an arrow does connect up top, which will mean that Yoe is barely going to survive. Stick charges into the Time Walk just enough to be able to get away.
That was very tight for Yoe. Does have the Chrono as well to bail him out, but even creeps were going against him there, so got to be a bit cautious. This ward is just a bit too much value for Vice. Haven't really been able to work it. They might get RR as consolation prize now.
They will. RR surely goes down. Enryu going to keep chasing him, and Samael going to leap behind Enryu just in case he needed it. So a slight net worth lead for Vice Esports. Everything looking pretty darn good for them, as two of their cores are going to be on top of the net worth graph. looks like the side of Execration, they're not too far behind, but they might have a little bit of catching up to do.
Yeah, I mean, you've still got this really good Mask of Madness timing out for Yoa, though. This is naked without brown boots, but this should allow Yoa to focus in on that farming game and make use of the space that the rest of his team is building up. However, look at Vice, the two supports, Bob, along with Zenki, just looking to make rotations out in Yoa.
Try and time walk away. Chrono going to be committed, but Bob is going to be able to avoid it. Yoe, that's not the Chrono he wanted. Nice juke out from Bob, forcing out that ulti. Now RR may be in danger. They've got a haste rune available on Bob if they do want to expend it. They'll go in now with the Aether Remnant to lock RR down, and Bob wants to go for a bit of a chase. The Stomp is going to come out, still dissimulate back out from Bob, and he does force out two more to TP up to that top lane and rotate, but it will really amount to nothing for Execration.
It's a lot of time wasted here by Execration. They're getting some map space out for Vice to play with. Samael is using this well in the bot lane, getting some EXP up on that Mirana. They've also been able to just give Paulus a little bit more breathing room for his farm, and he is doing quite well. Top number 2 still in that fort, along with Enryu at number 1. So very smooth start for Vice. They don't have a massive lead, but they have a lead nonetheless. It is still bouncing around with Execration. Execration, for their part, just play with Yoe. No Chrono right now, but buy him some map space, give him some safe jungle farm, get him some stacks. With a Mask of Madness, the Void's farm can escalate really fast.
Ravage bot lane, Yoe getting caught out. Arrow going to be there to follow up. Do they have the damage? They do. Rupido going to try and go back in, does get Zenki. That might be it, although it looks like Execration, they want to get a bit more than that. They only got a support for a pos 1 trade, and Ryu going to get speared with the Kraken Shell. Going to remove the stun off him. Disruption going to come in, and Kenny even going to rotate on the left track to make sure they get that Tide kill. Meanwhile, on the backside, Bob is going to be there with an Illusion Rune, and Samael going to try and go for the banner and deny. He has no leap charges, however, and this may cost him his life as he does drop, and now Bob even going to walk right past them. Eventually, Execration, they do kind of make it worthwhile for themselves down at that bot lane.
Yeah, it's worthwhile, but you're still upset about losing your Void. Still, you get some nice needed gold onto Ken. It clears out the bot tier 1 push as well, so it evens out the map control here for Execration. They've got the bottom jungle they can play with safely, and this is going to be where you can expect Yoa to get some safe farm out. Vice, for their part, not quite ready to put Paulus in the front line. He's still saving up here for his armlet. It's going to be a bit until that's up. You do have a small window where Execration will have Chrono up while Ravage is down. So this should be the time if they want to fight with Yoe. This is the moment. They can try to use it in this defense, but you've got a big team fight spell, and Vice should be timing this. Not going to look for the clump up until Enryu's ready.
Zenki, Fire Blast going to fly out. Disruption is there from BDZ, and looks like Zenki is going to have to pay for this with his life, or maybe not. He'll go for the TP play out, and Zenki is going to make it.
Oof.
Nice quick. Scurry's just kind of casually just sitting there. And bit of miss micro out from Zenki. I suppose in some way or another they still got some decent gold out of Zenki, but just not quite his life.
Nah, it's still a missed kill, but you're fine with Courier. That does give you a lot of gold to everyone else. Still, look at these stacks being taken out by Execration. Rupido just tanking out. This is what you have to worry about coming out from Yoe. Just getting this free farm up is never a good sign. You gotta be cautious. There's a Moonlight out, but you don't really find anything. They just kind of want to clump around this mid-tier 1.
Well, they've got the Ravage, so I think Vice just want to try and force this tower out. Chrono is up on Yoe, so they want to try and go in, and a lot of pings are coming out onto Enryu. They know the Tide has to die first. The problem is, how do you kill the Tide that quickly? I don't believe they really have an answer to that right now, but they're going to go for a quick smoker. See if they can make it work this way. And in fact, they're going to run straight into that Tide Hunter. Chrono going to have to be expended by Yoe to make sure they can get this kill. But with that Chrono, it should be enough, and Enryu will go down. And now Execration are the ones who want to try and push in that tier 1 mid tower.
They've got a lot of time where the tide isn't up. No buyback available in Enryu. No chrono though, so it could be still a bit dicey if Yao is caught out.
Oh, Spear is going to catch out Zenki. However, Bob jumping in with a nice resonant pulse does try and jump out of there as Samael going to chase him down. Yoem, meanwhile, just trying to find his way into Palos, but he doesn't really have much HP. Rupido going to get caught out now, and the rest of Execration, they are just going to run. Yoem, he's going to be fine. Vice, well, they will eventually get that tier 1 mid tower anyway. In fact, now they still have the Ravage up, so they can play around with that.
They've got a big advantage in terms of spells they can use. Execration, it's surprising that they couldn't go for it. Like, you've got this Leshrac with Max Diabolic Edict. Don't find the opportunity. Looks like they will swing towards top, maybe just clear out this jungle while they've got the time. You would want to see Enryu get the opportunity to use the Ravage though, so I think Vice might want to consider going for a push, but looks like they're just getting some stacks up as well for Palos. He does have his armlet up, the Desolator next, so he's going to be able to get some minus armor out, but Bob?
Oh, Bob been caught out. Split Earth's going to be there, and he does not have time to get out. God's Rebuke out from the Mars is going to be enough. I'm not sure what Bob was doing in that position, but he does get speared up and he does get taken out.
Yeah, it's a really good punishment out, but Vice, this is ballsy. They're moonlit up, they've got the Infest in as well. They're going to be playing 4 versus 5. Not a very smooth time, but looks like they're just going to use this to retreat.
Yeah, I mean, Vice, with the Moonlight Shadow, I guess without Bob, you just don't feel confident. I really don't think they have enough damage quite yet, even with the Ravage out, to really feel comfortable in these team fights without Bob around. Now Bob will be back up, so perhaps it's time for them to try. Execration, they're going to have Chrono back up in 10 seconds, which is just as scary. And Ryu going to move in. We'll go after Ara along with Palos, and Ara is going to die first up. They see Ken on the Leshrac, but they can't really make the chase. Have to let him go. So that's going to be it for now. Vice will take over the triangle, but Execration, they only really lose the position 5 here.
Not the biggest loss for them. The big issue right now is that Vice, although they have managed to hold on to Ravage, it's been so long that Chrono's back up. So they're going to be fighting into the Chrono once more. And looking at Yoa, he has been allowed to farm relatively free here. MKB lined up, already has the Demon Edge. So he is hitting harder and harder in that Chrono. Does become a major threat as Vice. I'd say they're the ones under pressure to play faster. We talked about the Void into late game. Chrono's just such a game-winning spell at that point. And that it's going to be harder and harder for Vice as this game goes late. So they're going to want to play as fast as they can, even if they're finding some steady farm. So a bit of pressure there on Vice.
Rupido gonna get arrowed up. Earthsplitter gonna fly through. Enryu in trouble. He's gonna avoid the Earthsplitter, and now a nice Ravage is out. Is it gonna be enough though? Ken still gonna just pole snowber him down into Samael, who is burning alive to Ken. They don't get any more, but with that tide down and with the Ravage down, Execration, they should feel quite confident to try and make a play with this Chrono.
Yeah, it's a massive win for Execration. A really good arena out from Rupido to block any sort of counterattack in. They can't maximize the Ravage, and they're just going to keep going.
BDZ, nice setup there with the disruption. Does help ensure they get Samael.
Dire's bottom tower is in danger.
Things are, I mean, they're still looking great for Vice in terms of how well Palos is farming. This lifesteal is having a great old time. But as a team, it doesn't seem to be working out right now. It seems as though Execration eventually might be able to just take this game based off the fact that they're playing much more coordinated.
That they are. They're just, they might not have that massive lead, but they are a lot more stitched together. Vice needs to really pull something out here. Like, they Moonlight Shadow once more. They don't have any information. about where Execration's at, so they walk up top without really finding anyone. They could set up for a push, but this tower is relatively healthy, and they don't have the best pushing lineup here from the side of Vice.
Well, Zenki, mid lane, gonna get caught out. Yoa will happily take his life. Still have the Chrono up, so top lane looks like they might try to go in. And Chrono is going to be there. They've got the Life Stealer. That's the big target they wanted. Palos, he's trying to run. He'll go for the Infest, but the Earthsplit are going to drag him back. And it looks like he's going to have to pop out sometime soon. BDC picking out the right creep. They finally get it. Yoem, meanwhile, trying to go after the Tide, and Ryu going to die. Palos still surviving, is going to be alright, as now Samael, the one to be caught out. And Palos, he was able to rage TP away. It kind of looked like he just gave up on the Lifestealer after he got the Infest off. They knew which creep it was, but they just couldn't be bothered going for him. They'd rather go for the others.
Yeah, it's a missed opportunity. At the same time, they do manage to find some nice kills. Slowing down Enryu is pretty darn big. Vice, again, their movements out are just causing them issues. They're not finding too many favorable trades. They're not really finding the pickoffs they'd want. You definitely start to look at this Leshrac and this Faceless Void and consider that Vice need to jump one of them. I think the Leshrac's going to be the easier target, so picking off Ken should be their main priority before this BKB flies up, because his farm is still being steady there, and they're just going to find more towers. Ken's just ready to roam around the map. They've got the Edict. They do force out the fort, but all Vice can do is try to force down that bot tier 2, which is a bigger tower, but you're still not going to stop Execration from making progress in the map.
Palos still looking very strong on this Lifestealer. Looking to go after the Basher next. The mid-tier 2 being pinged up here from Vice Esports. They want to keep the objectives going down on the side of Execration. BDZ going to hang around and get himself prepared for an incoming team fight. He'll go for a disruption onto the Lifestealer, into a spear, but Palos is going to be able to rage through it. Rupido trying to fight this one out. He's going to go back in, but the Infest is going to be there. Onto Enryu. They have the Ravage. They'll commit it. It does connect on 3, and that'll mean the Mars does go down. In comes Yoe, however. Back onto Palos. Palos trying to fight, but he cannot. Not into the Void. They can still try, but it's looking pretty bad now for the side of Vice Esports. They'll lose Zenki as well. Yoe, he's got the hand up for a high five. Enryu does not want any part of this, but he has been caught out once again by BDZ, and he is going to die. And it looked like a great start to the team fight by taking down the Mars, but after that they just fell apart.
Just having massive damage issues here from Vice, and they can barely take down the Mars. By the time they take out that tanky hero, they run out of spells. They're out of position to follow up on anyone else, and it's just way too much coming out from Execration. They are so split up in these fights. The Ravage barely connects to more than 2. Even if it does connect to 2 or 3, they're spaced out far enough that Vice cannot conceivably punish all of them. So really great discipline out from Execration. Vice, they've got to wait once more. They are sort of tied into Ravage now. They do smoke up, but this is them hunting without Ravage, without the Ags up and Bob. So it's not the best times. Gonna have to be careful with how they jump in here.
Absolutely. Bob looking to find RR out, does get the Order Titan. Yoem, meanwhile, Chrono comes in, catching 3 of them. That'll mean Bob is set to drop. They can go for more now. Zenki gonna go down, and Yoe, he found another. It's gonna be the Lifestealer Palos, who's trying to run, but he's been blocked off by Rupido, and that'll mean Palos, he should just die here. Eventually. He does not have the Infest. He can try to just man fight this one out, but it's not gonna work out in his favor. And this is beginning to look really bad for Vice Esports, but very good for Execration. As it's an 8k net worth lead now for Execration, and it's really starting to turn into a stomp now.
Yeah, they're finding all the openings. They're really getting the workout, again, that was Vice smoked up. They keep trying to force these fights without their spells. They're going to try to TP for the defense. It is going to be enough to force Execration away, but this is just Execration back to farming. Yoe saving up for his BKB. And once you have that in the face's void, Ravage becomes a non-issue for this hero. So you're losing out on a big window of opportunity for Vice. And it's at that point where the game is starting to go late and the gold is starting to grow too far for Vice to really pull something in. They just need to play with a Ravage. They have Ravage right now. This is the time when they should be smoking up.
They will. Looks like they've asked Enryu to go for a bit of a bait in the mid lane. Get that Mars. But it appears to not really be the target they want to make the jump on. They were kind of right in not making that decision as he did have people behind him. Problem is now, they've smoked up and they want to go for a fight. They don't have Chronos. This could be a pretty bad team fight for Execration to try and take. Yoe's going to be bait here. Seems as though Vice Esports are aware of this, however. Bob is going to show himself for a second, getting used up into the spear and the arena. Do you have the damage output, though? No, not quite. Rupido going to be left behind on the Mars and is probably going to drop and does. So eventually it does kind of work out in the favor of Vice Esports as now the tips do come out.
Just a bit too keen. You know, Rupido, he just got that blink. He wanted to show it off with his ults as well. And does bite him in the bum. And that's, again, another opportunity for Vice. Back-to-back smokes. Gonna try again. They've got a blink on Enryu. Can jump in for the Ravage if he wants to. Chrono is back up, though. So it's gonna be risky. If Yoe can punish the clump up here, could end up very badly for Vice.
Alright. Gonna be spotted out, does break the smoke. However, they found the Yules onto the Void with an arrow out. They might be able to take him out, but no! The Ravage comes out, but the disruption from BTS saving the day into Palos. The Live's still in massive trouble. Yoe gonna burst him down. Samiel's gone as well. And now they want more Bob. If the backline's trying to run. Meanwhile, Enryu trying to do the exact same thing, but he's got Ken on top. And Ken is gonna eventually just take him out. Into Bob. He's trying to slow down Yoe and actually almost kills the Void. He's going to have to just walk away from this situation. Once again, BDZ to the rescue.
Yeah, just getting way too much setup there. Not done.
No, they found him again. Bob, he just wasn't far enough. He does not have any astral steps, so we have to really play around here. He gets to the high ground. Disruption there from BDZ. That may give time, but no, the Split Earth is going to come out from Ken, and they will return the tips back to Bob on the Void Spirit.
Really back and forth. Good punishment this time from Execration. Into the pit. You know there's no Ravage for a longer time. So you're going to be able to find that first Aegis of this game. BKB is up in Yoe as well. So he's got the spell immunity. He doesn't have to worry about the Ravage. And Vice needs to be careful here.
Oh, they go in again. Rupido right onto the high ground, going after Zenki, but he throws him to the low ground. Ken trying to take down Enryu. He's getting pretty low. BTZ from the back lines trying to sort this out as well. The Infest comes out. Enryu going to be safe for now, but still being chased down. Palos going to jump out. Enryu going to be left behind. Will eventually die, but Ken, he really wants that Life Stealer. He may have gone too far, however, or maybe not. Palos still in danger. Rupido going to jump back in. Palos still trying to turn back around and fight. Does kill off Ken. Bob, meanwhile, going after BDZ, but the disruption going to delay things just a little bit, but eventually they will get the Shadow Demon. Yoe trying to go after Bob, gets caught by the Aether Remnant. He does not have a Chrono. Ultimately, it does prove to be a little bit too far. Execration, they do give a couple kills away that they did not want to give away. It was a 2-for-2 trade in the end, but the goal definitely favored Vice Esports.
Yep, you still have the lead on Execration. However, Vice, because of those kills, do have some nice spikes here. Bob has the Aghanims up on his Void Spirit, so he's got the 2 charges on Resonant Pulse. He's got the AoE silence as well. And that is really a major spike for the Void Spirit. You're going to have to watch for that jump in from Bob now. Going to be able to get a little bit more control in the back line and really get some work done. However, Execration did manage to buy out the Aghanims upgrade on their Shadow Demon. So they've got Demonic Purge on charges now. Makes it easier to control that Life Stealer and, in fact, control anyone. So you're going to have to watch yourself when BDZ's around.
Tide gonna be in trouble. Yoe gonna make the jump in, and Enryu, he is just not tanky whatsoever. Meanwhile, top lane, Yoe gonna make a TP up. He wanted to go after Palos, but Palos did get an infested creep and just runs away. He'll be just fine. Mid lane. Mars not gonna make the jump onto Bob. The Moonlight Shadow was still there. They might just set up for that tier 2 mid tower instead, as they have the Chrono to back them up.
Fortified. Dire's top tower is under attack. Radiant's middle tower is under attack. Radiant's middle tower has fallen. Dire's top tower is under attack.
Vice now. And they're still fighting into an Aegis every single time, so they've got to play a bit cautiously. There is some good split pushing coming out from Samael, trying to shove out that top into the tier 3 to buy some time, but Execration won't bite the bait. There's only so much Mirana can do in a push. They can just easily go for this bot tier 2 now and try to look for more objectives if they want to do. They have the Chrono up. There is a Ravage up and Enryu, but it's into the BKB now. Enryu has to be on point for the Ravage, and the past 2-3 fights now, it just hasn't been on point. So Vice, it's starting to become all about Palos finding that farm on the Life Stealer.
Oh, they found Bob. Spear's gonna come out. Yoe is there with the damage. Rupido really enjoying himself now, giving the tips back to Bob once again. These are very, very big pickoffs on this Void Spirit.
Really is. We haven't seen Bob reveal his Ags in any big way as well. They do manage to take out a very big courier that did have most of the parts for the AC of Palos. So his own item is going to be delayed by 3 minutes. Not a good sign. They need every single advantage they can eke out here. And remember, all of this farm right now in Vice is basically drained into the Life Stealer. You've given Enryu and Bob the back seat here to get Palos up. And with that item stalled out, that just means you have no presence for the next few fights. So Execration, they've still got about a minute on the Aegis. They should look to use it once more.
Dire are scanning for enemies.
Ken, having a look here for this Ogre. Zenki is going to be able to hide in the tree line and just go for a quick TP play out. Still Vice holding on to this game. Very, very tough though with that 15k net worth lead against them. Still not out of it though. It's definitely possible to bring this one back.
They've got to wait for this courier to be back. Like, they can't fight without the AC. They're going to have the Abyssal up in Palos soon, but they need those 2 minutes up for the AC to be done. There's just no point with that one item down. Execration, the Aegis is gone. It has expired, so they aren't playing with a safety net of a second life. Next Roche will find in about 2 minutes 40, just how long the respawn will be. But you've got this 14k lead at 32 minutes in. The face is void at this point. Going into the Scotty, going into the late game is just a massive beast. It's very hard to deal with. You're getting some space out for Rupido as well, as his BKB, finds one.
Well, they found the Ogre. Not the most important kill, but they'll definitely take it. With that Ogre down, they might just keep going for a bit more. Enryu has an infested life stealer right now. Yoe might spot this out. They get the Yules off. Palos does not want to get caught like this, and he just will. Arrow does connect, however, they caught the Void out with the arrow. Palos gonna get a double kill now and try to turn this one back around, but he just doesn't have the damage output or the survivability. He will also drop. Bob, dissimulate, trying to get out, but he's in big, big trouble. He's got an astral step in 1 second, but it will not be long enough. So they found the void, but it just didn't matter.
No. It still is a net positive of gold here for Vice. That's just how far behind they are. Like, you look at that recap, you actually did gain gold on Palos. You gained a little bit of gold on Bob. And overall, it's still happy, but you're losing these heroes, and the defense just won't happen anymore.
In mid lane, BDZ trying to set up there onto Samael, but Rupiro did not have any mana to throw out a spear at the time. And so next team fight, Chrono is going to be up once again, which is definitely going to be pretty bad news for Vice Esports. On the brighter side, they have Ravage, but I just don't feel like these Ravages have been as impactful as you'd hope. And at this stage of the game where you've got BKBs up now, it's just that much worse.
It is. It's very, very hard for Enryu to find that angle. I think at this point, for Vice, you might just want to consider playing the high ground. You have really good defense. And the issue is you're trying to defend against a void. Chrono is just going to ruin you if you clump up. So you need to weigh your options there. Roche, we're going to find that timer in about 20 seconds. Execration can set their eyes to that objective first before breaching the high ground and kind of securing their push up. They've got the Skadi up on Yoe as well. So any sort of healing that has been coming through is definitely gone, and they've got even more slows to play with.
Yule's up. He's going to catch out Rupiro. He's going to try and go after Zenki, and Zenki is going to die very easily to Ken. Even get his poor courier, which just had a sentry ward on it. Nothing too valuable, but they get it anyway. Looks like they want to try for the high ground attempt now. Infest is going to be out onto Enryu, looking to move in with that Ravage, and if they can blow up the Void pretty much straight away, it's definitely going to work out in their favor, but well, as soon as they see the Moonlight Shadow, Execration won't bother with it anymore. They back off, and nothing comes out of this Infest.
There's a really quick Roche timer as well. It's already up if they wanted to go for that instead. And Vice, they're out of position to defend against it or even contest it. So Execration have a clear shot at Aegis and Cheese to secure that high ground. Very fortunate for them that the timer is that low, and should be a straightforward take. Vice, they're just so far away because of that movement out with the Infest. Just the wrong part of the map already.
Roshan going to be taken down very easily. Moving down to the bot lane. Ken, Palos, they do jump on the left track. He's gone too far. Ken trying to clear out the creep wave, assuming that there was only one hero around, but Henry was in the fog. Now they've killed off the left track, and that'll buy them even more time.
It's a nice pickup. That was Ravage pop, though. You know, that's a very big spell to commit for one hero. You will take what you can get. I think Execration not going to be too upset. They've still got the cheese when Ken does respawn. They will have options to jump back in. They've got Chrono while Ravage is down now. They should be aware of that, and they can just force the fight. This is very far forward from Yoe. He can be punished, but I don't know if Vice is even aware if Yoe is a bit forward here.
Arrow. Gonna connect. Does hit a creep. Zenki gonna move in, does get the Fire Blast off. Disruption is gonna be there. Rupiro does move in, and now Yoe trying to go in for more. He goes after the Tidehunter, along with his Mars. Yoe gets the BKB straight into the Lifestealer with the Chrono, and that spells very bad news here. He's got the AC, but just not enough damage being blocked off by that armor. And Bob is still trying to fight this one out, but it's just way too late, and Yoe wants to keep going. He doesn't have detection though. So Bob should theoretically just be fine. I can't say the same about this Mirana though. It's caught out. Yoe should be there with the bashes, and Samael is going to drop, but he will buy back. Only problem being they don't have the buyback gold right now for this Lifestealer.
Yeah, there's no damage without that guy. At least Bob can rip through the supports, and he has been, but it's going to be hard to stop Yoe. He just switches lanes when he sees the repair kit, gonna get some damage hit and group it up.
Yeah, nice arrow comes through, but they don't have Bob around to dish out the damage. Had Bob been there, maybe you could have tried to go after that Void and taken the Aegis away, but that's just not going to be the case now, and that tier 3 tower is going to drop. Enryu's going to move in, trying to force Yoe away, but he's just going to jump back in after Enryu and the Fire Blast. Not going to be enough. Rupiro, he has the damage. Luckily for them, backdoor protection is a thing, and they will survive another day. Or at least this Rax will. However, jump in again from this Mars. Still, Bob trying to get this Void, but Yoe, it's just going to be the Aegis. Bob, he'll Astral Step his way out. Yoe back into the Rax. Enryu is going to buy back as they have their life stealer back up very soon. Yoe going to go back in for the melee barracks, but no, he won't quite finish them. Bob going to try and follow up with an Aether Remnant. Palos going to be there with an Abyssal Blade. Arrow connects as well. The Arena, the Disruption going to save the day from BDZ. Yoe, BKB in time. The Ravage going to do absolutely nothing. Palos trying to fight this one out. He's going to have to infest and run though. He gets into Bob. Astral Step away. Is it going to be enough though? Dissimulate is there. Bob turns back around onto the Mars. Does get that. Samael, he'll die. Ken still moving in for more. Goes back in onto Bob. There's no buybacks left. They are looking really bad right now by Esports. Trying to buy as much time as possible with just one hero, but BDZ, he has the control. They will take down the Void Spirit, and that means it should be GG.
Yeah, there's no defense they can do. They haven't tapped out yet, but this is still a fast push. You've got the Leshrac. That was down to the fact that the Abyssal came through. I believe that was the Abyssal stun from our Lesh, but it was right on top of Ken's stun. So he couldn't do anything in that downtime and just got punished. Or just fountain diving with a Chrono as well.
Yeah, they know
Styling
there's
in
no
the end.
buybacks. They know it's GG. It was a decent enough run from Vice Esports, but Execration proved to be a little bit better today. And congratulations to them. They will make it through to the round 2 of the lower bracket. And of course, the person they'll be versing will be finding out up next, John, as they are going to be in their own series today. I believe it's Motivate.Trust versus Neon Esports coming up next.
Yeah, another close series. Execration and Vice, it's rather unfortunate. Both of these teams did have to face each other so early on in the lower bracket. Remember, both of these teams came through open qualifiers. This position in groups just unfortunate, but it is what it is. Execration move on. BO3 up against Neon, a closer matchup. Two teams that you didn't necessarily expect to end up in the lower bracket, but that roster shakeup in C, really still feeling the shockwaves of it. So we'll have to see who does go home. BO3, they were the champs of the last 2 BTS tournaments, so they should be the favorites, but it's been up and down for them.
It certainly has, and up against Neon, they could be making their exit from the tournament if they're not too careful. We'll see what the game plan is from both teams, though, as we are going to take a 10-minute break, and after this 10-minute break, we'll be back with our final BO3 of the night between Motivate.Trust and Neon Esports. We'll see you all again very soon.